Hey kids, do you like wrestling? Well, we like wrestling too. We are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Myself and Chris Novembrino kind of doing a lazy river of wrestling criticism, going through the news and whatever happened in stateside television wrestling. And also, you know what? Sometimes we just like to watch old stuff and talk about that too. Love for you to give us a listen. If you haven't already, we are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
What has being annoying stopped you ever?
That's an excellent point. An excellent point. That's part of the charm.
Rich Crage.
And I'm allowed to be a work rate nerd for the G1. I just want them to have great matches and kill themselves. I don't care. It's not my body. I just want to watch great matches.
Stop yelling at me. I agree.
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How's that sore throat doing over there?
It's fine. We're gonna battle through this and
got a lozenge.
I did get a lozenge. You want to make something of it?
No. What kind of lozenge? What are we doing? Ricola? We doing just Halls, generic ass Halls? What flavor? I got a lot of questions about this lozenge. Let's go. Let's talk lozenge.
Let's see. It's the Halls Economy Pack.
Oh,
80 lozenges, strawberry flavor.
I think you're going to need all 80 of them, given how your voice sounds right now. I think all 80 of those bad boys are going to get unwrapped. Okay, so we got Halls Economy Pack Strawberry.
That's what it says,
yeah. I think you could do better than that. I think given the state of your throat, I think you should have done better than that, but it's all right. You need the ones that knock your, where the back of your throat's tingling or whatever, or the ones that knock you. You need something like that, but that's fine. You went with Halls.
What are you, some kind of lozenge expert?
I actually am. Yeah, I used to. I Mayor of Sexy Town just said Ricola Jones over here. That's so good. That's good. That's good stuff, Mayor of Sexy Town. Good for you. I am. Yeah, I'm a man who actually used to get more sick. Ever since COVID, now I never get sick anymore. It's really weird. During COVID, never got sick. Had COVID the one time, didn't bother me at all. Did shows, did nobody knew I had it. I mean, I didn't go to work for a little bit, and I didn't hang around a bunch of people. I did shows here. I did the Flagship with COVID. I did a bunch of solo shows. Nobody knew. Nobody said, "Whoa, wow, Rich, you sound like shit." Sounded fine. And I've been pretty much hell. I'm now going to get horribly sick in the next couple days, no doubt about it. But I'm I don't get sick anymore. But I used to get sick all the time. Constantly, with that nurse coming home with all her random ass germs all the time. It used to be terrible around these parts. But so I used to be Ricola Jones over here, if you're asking. Lozenge Jones over here. I used to know about
built up the natural immunity.
I guess I did. Yeah, it was hell for the first 10 years that I was dating her, but then the last couple have been fine. So,
well, I mean, I don't have the sore throat anymore. I had a sore throat for 2 days. The kind where you wake up in the morning and you think you're gonna die, where it's really bad in the morning when you wake up. And then, I don't know, I just during the course of today, the sore throat went away, but now I have no voice. Now my voice is going away, which wasn't a problem when I had the sore throat. So I don't know, but there's audio to do. So
gotta work.
And, and no, they're all a bunch of wise asses in the chat. I do not have the flu. This is not the flu. This is just some kind of throat issue. There's no fever. What are the symptoms of a flu?
Okay, so you want me to look up the symptoms of the flu? All right, we're just gonna go with that, right?
I'm running around, I'm doing everything every day.
All right, so is it? Oh, here we go. This is perfect. Is it a cold or is it flu?
I don't think it's either, but let's see.
All right, let's see. Signs and symptoms. Symptom onset: cold, gradual, flu, abrupt. You just said right there. It's been a couple days, right?
The sore throat kind of came on gradually. It was one of those where I knew it was coming. I was like, I'm gonna have a sore throat.
You get that first day you wake up and you take a gulp and your throat kind of hurts and you're like, fuck me, this is gonna suck.
Like, this is not a painful swallow, but it's going to be at some point. Yeah.
Some of that little post-nasal drip. Sore throat, cold, common, flu, sometimes.
I definitely had a sore throat for 2 days.
Stuffy nose, cold, common, flu, sometimes.
I have a stuffy nose right now.
There it is. Fever, rare for the cold, usual for the flu. Yeah, no fever over there.
I never had a fever at any point.
Did you get the thermometer gimmick out or what?
Yes, TLB takes my temperature like every 18 seconds. So,
are we doing under the tongue? Or are we doing, other
the
places?
Armpit gimmick.
Armpits.
Yeah, so
There's other places. There's a lot of other places. I don't know what, You're like,
Well,
the only good way to take it is in the back. Let's go.
Much like these people in the chat, she is determined to diagnose me with a flu because I run around saying I've never had the flu. So she takes my temperature like every 18 seconds. And no, I have not had a fever at any point over the last 3 days.
And we doing digital thermometer here. We're doing old school, looking at the mercury rising on the. Do they even sell those anymore? Can you even get like a non-digital thermometer anymore?
I don't know.
But you got the beeps. You get the beeps, and you go beep, and then I look at it. Damn it, you're still the same. So
digital gimmick, yeah. Digital.
Yeah, it's a digital gimmick. Aches, slight for a cold, usual for a flu. Any aches over there?
No, I can't report any aches at all.
Yeah, chills, uncommon for the cold, fairly common for the flu.
No chills.
Fatigue, weakness, sometimes for the cold, usual for the flu. I mean, you're here.
I can't really report.
You did Thursday Dynamo review earlier. You're here to do 3 hours of the flagship right now. That's no fatigue or weakness.
No, I mean, I had a long day yesterday. I had to get up crack of dawn, and we had to do a bunch of stuff. And I mean,
the real crack of dawn or the Lands of crack of dawn?
No, real crack of dawn. I had to get up like 7:30.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, no, I can't report any fatigue. No. What else?
Sneezing, common with the cold, sometimes with the flu. I feel like you've had neither though, right?
I don't think I've sneezed.
Okay. Are you like, I was gonna say like Vince, and then we could make sneezing jokes, but not the time to do that. So I'm gonna shelf the Vince McMahon sneezing jokes for ever, probably.
Maybe when he's dead.
When he passes away, then we could do that. Yeah. Chest discomfort / cough, mild to moderate for the cold, common for the flu.
Little bit of a cough.
Okay, mild to moderate. You would say little mild to moderate.
I'd say
cough?
mild to moderate cough. I'm not like, after every couple of words, I feel like I have to cough. A little bit of a cough.
Okay, sir. I think according to the CDC, you either have a cold or just a sore throat or something like that. No flu. I mean, none of those. We went over it.
See,
we did it. CDC.
We went over it.
Hashtag fight flu. We did it. And you had none of those.
We went over it. So no flu. Again, I've never had the flu.
Right.
So
take it up with the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention if you want, but we did it.
Now this loss of voice is like literally brand new. I just did the TV reviews like 5 hours ago, and my voice didn't sound like this. So I don't know what's going on with this. This just came on over the last couple of hours. So
I have given Joe the option to tap out if he needs to at any point, and we'll figure out the rest of the show if need be. So you let me know if it requires that. We can definitely do that.
Kidding me?
I mean, I know you would. I knew it'd be a last ditch effort, but if it happens, it happens. But yeah, you've done shows and you've sounded worse before. So
some kind of pussy over here. I could talk for 3 hours. Okay, this ain't breaking rocks. Let's be honest.
You got it. Yeah,
we got topics to talk.
We got a lot of topics to talk about. We got new information about Scott D'Amore's TNA departure, as well as TNA wrestlers sending a letter to Anthem about his removal. So that is a story that is not going to go away, and we are going to talk about it a little bit later. The latest on the Vince McMahon WWE lawsuit. Big day coming up tomorrow, actually. By the time most of you guys listen to this, might be old news, but we'll touch on it here with the live Thursday flagship about what could possibly be going on tomorrow with the Vince McMahon WWE lawsuit and any new information that has come out. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Billy Jack Haynes, former pro wrestler, was arrested in connection with the death of his wife. It looks like if you put the case together that this man murdered his wife. So unfortunately, we'll have to talk about that story as well a little bit later. we'll try to do both of those together, just kind of get all the awful stuff out of the way all at once. In lighter news, we're going to check in on the AEW Revolution card, as well as talk about the Blackpool Combat Club going to CMLL. I don't know if you saw that, but tickets are moving like crazy for that CMLL show, with Blackpool Combat Club showing up, and it looks like a really, really good card for CMLL as well. So we'll talk about that. Contract season updates, Joe. More people are on the move. WWE's The Bump. Matt Camp is a free agent, can be signed anywhere, can go anywhere he wants. QT Marshall, Rocky Romero, a bunch of other stuff as well. Some news and notes about that. And as well, we're going to touch on, and maybe we'll start here. I think it's probably the best way to start, is talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling. And we're going to look at Okada's final New Japan matches. Now we know exactly what matches he's going to be in for his final 2 shows with New Japan Pro Wrestling. But we'll start out first with a review of New Beginning in Osaka. This was over the weekend. This was the show that had the final, for now at least, Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Okada match. Will Ospreay send-off, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Bryan Danielson. The Will Ospreay send-off being in that 10-man cage War Games thing. So a lot going on there with New Beginning in Osaka. Let's just start with Okada and Tanahashi. I think that's probably the best way to start for the New Beginning in Osaka review. I don't know if you were surprised by this or this was exactly what you thought was going to happen, but Okada defeating Tanahashi, winning in about 16 minutes and 50 seconds. Now, this match was placed pretty weird on the show. It was placed in front of the IWGP Tag Team title match. It was way in front of the Sabre versus Bryan Danielson, which was the semi-main event. And then, of course, the Steel Cage 10-man tag was your main event. So I'll start off first, I guess, and we talked about this a little bit, but were you maybe surprised that the Okada-Tanahashi match was placed where it was, or did it make sense given that you were talking about an IWGP Tag Team title match, and then Sabre and Danielson, which does have some sort of ramifications for the rest of New Japan's year. But I don't know, some people were kind of taken aback that Okada and Tanahashi was like 4th from the top.
Yeah, maybe being below the tag title match was a little bit of a surprise, but it didn't surprise me that it was behind the other 2 matches. This was not originally scheduled for this show. This was a match that they put together after he decided he was leaving the company, and they ripped everything up and rebooked everything. So, it's Osaka. It's a big city for them. It's a building where they've run a bunch of big cards. It's a building where Okada has had some legendary matches. And they decided to do one more Okada-Tanahashi match. And, it didn't come across any less special than it would have if it went on after the tag team title match or anything like that. So, I don't, and the main event, the cage had to be the main event.
Oh, absolutely. Given the setup. Yeah, given all the setup, there was no choice but to have that be the main event.
And let's not forget, that was Will Ospreay's goodbye. So they weren't going to just, bypass that and stick Okada ahead of him, even if it wasn't, some kind of wild cage match where they're going to rip the building apart. But I guess the long-winded answer is maybe a little bit, but it was on the business end of the card. So, I don't think it mattered if it would have been flip-flop with the tag match. Okada was still incredibly emotional. He kissed the lion mark. The tears were flowing. The crowd was very emotional. They gave him a respectful goodbye. It was absolutely the right call to win the match. So I've seen some people say maybe he should have lost. I disagree with that. They've treated his exit with respect all the way through. And, you had to figure he'd win this one. I thought the match itself, really all of their matches since the Dallas match, which would have been 2016, right?
Yes. Let me make sure.
That was 8 years ago already. Holy shit.
Maybe it was 2018. Maybe 2018. Does that sound more accurate? I think it was 2018, actually, now that I think about it. Let me double check, because that seems way too long ago. I don't like if it was that.
I think it's 2018.
Yeah, right. Now that I'm looking at it, yeah, I think it was 2018.
So 6 years ago. All of their matches since Dallas in 2018 have been sort of playing the hits. All the matches prior to that are some legendary all-time great matches. And this one, they were playing the hits. until he went for that first Rainmaker and, Tanahashi punched him in the mouth. And then he went for a second Rainmaker and Tanahashi countered with the crucifix. They had a hell of a closing stretch. And I thought this was the best match they've had probably since the last legendary match they've had, which would be prior to Dallas. I really loved the match. I thought it was a great match.
Interesting.
And
yeah, I didn't. So, by the way, for people that do not know, 2019 actually was the G1. So it was not that long ago. It seems like a long time ago, but given where the world went over the next couple of years. But yeah, 2019, July 6th, 2019.
2016 for. But anyway, yeah, I think, since they've kind of hit the play the hits era of their rivalry, I thought, and it looked like this match was going in that direction. Okay, they're going to go out there and have a nice little 3 3/4 star, 4-star match, maybe if it. But, I thought it was a little better than that. I would go about 4 1/4 on it. I thought it was really great in the closing stretch, and they did more than I thought they were going to do in terms of Tanahashi not going down easy. And when you combine the gravity of the moment and the drama and the emotion of it, I thought it was a really great match. It was my second favorite match on the card. So no big secret what number one is. Obviously, Danielson and Sabre had an all-time classic.
Yeah, cannot wait to talk about that match.
But, I thought the match was great, and I thought the post-match was just super emotional, as was the Ospreay thing that we'll talk about later. And now he'll come back as a freelancer, and I guess technically he was a freelancer for this one too, and work the 2 shows in Sapporo. And say goodbye to that city. And then that'll be it. And then from there, I don't know. I mean, I highly doubt it's the last time we see him in New Japan. But at the same time, it's not like I would rush him back. It won't feel special. You want to stay away for a while for it to mean something for New Japan's business and for it to mean something to Okada. He can go away for a couple years. And then, I wouldn't rush him back for, like a G1 or something. It would just feel weird. Or even a big singles match on a big show in the next, 8 or 9 months or a year or whatever.
Yeah, I would say the first time if you really, really, really want to would be Wrestle Kingdom. And even then, I'm with you. I think you should almost take an entire year off and have it be, 2 Wrestle Kingdoms from now or next year's. Something like that. I think if he just comes, like you said, if he comes back at, in September or whatever, it's just like, all right, he's kind of back already. I don't know. It needs, I feel like it is much better with time, with go away, do your thing, and it'll come back and it'll be special. It'll mean something if he comes back 2 years from now, as opposed to if he comes back in September. It's not going to feel like he was gone long enough.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Now, it wouldn't stun me at all if they bring him back for Wrestle Kingdom this year. But I just don't. I think everyone would be best served to wait. That's all. I think it would be better if you wait a little longer. Do I think he'll ever work in New Japan again? Yes, I do. I would put the odds at 100% that he works in New Japan again. Do I think he'll work for New Japan again? Again, I think I would put the odds at 100%. Yes. I think that, do I think he's going to spend the rest of his life in America? No, I do not. So, but I thought I really loved the match. I think it's the best match I've had in a while. And I really did think the moment came across as something special.
Yeah, I didn't like it as much as you did. I thought it was okay. I think the pre-match and the emotion of Okada and the emotion of the crowd and the emotion of Tanahashi too, who clearly felt, in that moment like this was a pretty big deal and this was something, that I mean, everybody knew the gravity of this thing. It was Tanahashi versus Okada for quote unquote the final time. Is it going to be the final time? 100%. We don't know. We don't know. But for now, it's the final time, and it very well might be, because by the time Okada's ready to come back, there might be a chance that Tanahashi isn't a regular wrestler or isn't really ready to be in the ring anymore. And so I guess the gravity of the moment felt like I came in feeling like, oh man, here we go. This is it. This is the final time. These guys are going to go in the ring at the peak of their powers, in their primes, all that sort of stuff. And I don't know. I just didn't. It to me, it felt. You said it felt like they were playing the hits. A lot of their other matches that they've had since Dallas. I kind of felt the same way about this one. And I think what made it worse too is we're playing the hits, and one of the guys can't really go at all anymore. Tanahashi just can't go anymore. We talked about it this last year. We declared him officially washed last year. It's now gotten into like it's kind of sad to watch Tanahashi wrestle now. And so I think part of it was me having pretty high expectations of, okay, it's Tanahashi and it's Okada, and they know this is it, so they're going to lay it all out there. They're going to do everything they possibly can. And then Tanahashi does that high fly flow from the top rope, and I'm like, oh fuck, he realizes the moment. He's got it. Here we go. And then I was just kind of disappointed, because it did just feel like they were just playing the hits from then on. And then it was just kind of a paint by numbers. You can close your eyes and envision what type of match it was from there. So, I mean, did I think it was a dud? No, I don't think it was a dud or whatever, but I don't know. I'm like 3.5 stars at most with it. I just did not think it really, and it's probably a victim of my own expectations. I just felt we were going to get a little bit more of a, let's put a stamp on this feud and this rivalry once and for all here. And maybe that's unfair for me to expect that out of Tanahashi, but I thought maybe this one time he could turn back the clock a little bit. And I just don't think he could. I mean, the weight's bad. He looks like he's in a ton of pain. His pants can't stay on. It's just, it's become more sad than anything. And I think that kind of hit me. I thought we were going to get more of the final epic, and instead it was like oh great, I never want to see this match ever again type of thing. Like that's what I felt after this. I felt like, dear God, I hope they never do this ever again, because this is just the law of diminishing returns every single time. So I don't know. I didn't like it as much as you did.
I thought it was better than Dallas. I thought it was better than Battle in the Valley last year, right? Yeah, the one with Sasha Banks. So I think they eclipsed their recent vintage matches. I don't think it was better than like, the Wrestle Kingdom matches or Invasion Attack or anything like that. But I thought it was better than the decline phase Tanahashi matches that they've had. So as far as the show itself, it did 5,327 fans. So the last time they were in the big body maker was for Power Struggle, which was the Will Ospreay Shota Umino match, which was an incredible match, which had Hiromu and Taiji Ishimori, and the Super Junior Tag League Finals, and that did 4,046. So you can kind of see the difference in attendance here. I don't know how many tickets were sold before and after they announced the match. I've said it a million times. I think if they could, with the benefit of hindsight, they would have run Osaka Joe Hall if they could for this final Okada Tanahashi match. Although I don't know if is 5,327, is that a full Osaka? It looked full on the broadcast.
Yeah, it looked pretty good. I don't know. I don't follow that arena that often, so I'm not sure what or I don't follow the attendance for that as much. I don't know if that was. It looked good. I mean, it looked very good and sounded really good. And they weren't shy about doing long shots. I mean, you could tell sometimes there's when New Japan is doing those sort of shows, and you can tell that maybe the crowd isn't quite as good. They'll go a little tighter with the shots. And this one, they were, for all the entrances, for Will's entrance, for Okada's entrance, they were more than happy to just pan out and just let you see. I mean, just zoom out and you just saw the whole arena there. So yeah, it looked like a healthy audience. I don't know. Maybe someone in the chat room can let us know what the capacity is for Edion Arena Osaka. It will always be the body maker to me, but I don't know what their capacity is for wrestling.
The two G1 shows did about 3,000 fans. Let me go back pre-pandemic to a show. That would have been COVID-19, so it would have been February, March 2020, so got to go to 2019. Let's do... Oh, that's the wrong building. Power Struggle 2019 did 5,558.
Okay, so yeah, that's probably where we're at
then.
Neighborhood
is this.
That's where we're at then. Yeah, because if we're talking pre-pandemic and stuff like that, yeah, we're right there. So you're a couple hundred away from being right there.
Yeah, the G1 show with Naito and Takagi that year did 55-55. So
okay, so yeah, we're about 200 off from that, which is fine. That you'll take for sure. So that's a good number.
Both and Sonata, Okada, and the G1 did 55-55. So 5,500 is pretty much the capacity.
So just under that. We were just under that here, with a pretty short notice, a match booked on pretty short notice or whatever. So that's not bad.
So that's a really healthy attendance for them in, for their current business situation. So, and it wasn't just his goodbye. It was Will Ospreay's goodbye, period.
Yeah.
From the company. He's done. So there was that aspect too. Now, as far as Okada, there was a report out of Fightful that he's more than likely headed to AEW, but hasn't signed anything, which is kind of what everybody's been saying. So I don't know how newsworthy that report was, other than Sean is the first reporter to really stick his neck out and say with confidence in an official report that this is where the guy's going.
Right. He was the first one to say it with his chest. Everybody else was kind of like, Meltzer's been talking about how, hey, well, it's, nobody really knows quite yet. I mean, we assume AEW, but, WWE is talking to him, and Sean was the first to say, he's probably very likely, I forget the exact wording he used, going to AEW.
His verbiage was barring a catastrophe.
Right. Okay.
So
it's saying it with your chest-ish. It's not all chest. Yeah. It's not full chest, but it's chest-ish for sure.
I mean, look no further than here. I've been saying for weeks that everything I hear is Tony will not be outbid. If it's about getting the best money offer, he's going to AEW. Period. The only way he's going to WWE is if he values the WrestleMania moment, being a WWE superstar. If those things matter to him, then WWE is still in play. If it's the money, Tony Khan is not going to be outbid for him. Period. He'll top any offer. It will be a never-ending auction situation where he always says a bigger number until the other side taps out. And he has essentially limitless funds in a scenario like that. So the Fightful report lines up with what pretty much everybody else is saying. Now, the Okada camp, his agent, the people near him, it's been very close to the vest. Nothing has come out from their side. When Will Ospreay was going through this, he was doing a lot of chirping in the media to kind of drive up his value. He was bantering with Seth Rollins on Twitter.
Right.
About a potential match. He was speaking publicly about how, Impact's not a bad option. He was just, that was his strategy, and that's a viable strategy too. And then he ended up where most people thought he was going to end up at the end of the day, which again, in these situations, you're not going to outbid Tony Khan when he really wants to win. If it's going to be about money, he's going to win.
Right. And there's two completely different negotiation paths going on here, and they're both very effective. There is the, hey, I'm open for business. Everybody call me. I'll work with you. I'll work with you. I'll work with you. That sort of stuff. And that is one very good method. The other method that Okada's employing is the kind of the hard to get thing where nothing's coming out, and it's probably, maybe it's making the one side think, oh God, is the offer all the way there? Do we need more? Or the other side saying, shit, maybe he's not going there. Maybe we do have a chance. You know what I mean? Like there's two ways to drive up value. One is the Ospreay way of telling everybody you're open for business, call me, do this, I'll work with this guy, I'll work here, I'll work there. The other is kind of the very silent treatment where you get people thinking a little bit, and that's probably what the camp is doing. I mean, it's Okada, so he's not going to be out there. That's not really his style, and obviously it's two American companies, so what's he going to do? Do the podcast rounds or whatever? Probably not, but it does work pretty well to just kind of sit by the side and maybe wait for all the offers to come in. And maybe the fact that he hasn't quote unquote decided yet is a good way for WWE to say, well, hey, what about this offer, and AEW to counter it and go back to, I mean, at the end of the day, I think we all know, and you and I definitely know that the guy wants to be in AEW. That's probably the best spot for him, but it behooves him and it behooves, Barry Bloom to get as big of an offer from AEW as possible. And if they can move that up by, whatever amount of money over the next couple of weeks by, having WWE bid for him, then yeah, you do that. Of course you do that.
Well, I think there's a point where WWE taps out on these things because they don't need these free agents. And there's something else going on in that company. You know, they have a lot of their own free agents coming up. And we don't often hear about that, but we're hearing a lot about it now. And maybe we're starting to see the TKO talent strategy. It wouldn't surprise me if they let a lot of these free agents that are coming up walk. Because that's similar to how they run the UFC side. Make sure you get your top line, tippy top superstars and have them in play. And anyone who's even a half a tier below, they feel like they don't need you.
Or, well, shit, in some cases, even if the tippy top guy asks for too much tippy top money, they tell him, well, you can tippy top your ass out of here, because that happened too recently. They said, well, hold on a minute, you're a tippy top star, but not that much. You ain't that much of a star. You still are replaceable. Yeah,
so maybe it's, if Tony Khan is going to top us on guys like Ospreay and Okada or Adam Copeland, then let him. Because Khan wins most of these. Which ones has he lost? You can't count Cody. Cody wanted to go. And we may never find out what the personal situation was between Cody and Tony Khan. But clearly there was a rift there. There was something. So I don't count that. Tony Khan had an option on Cody, and he declined it out of deference to him and let them go. So that's not a bidding war. That's something happened between the two of them. The guy wanted out, and Tony granted him that and let him go. Jade Cargill and Dragon Lee might be the only two. And in the case of Dragon Lee, it very clearly wasn't money. Dragon Lee bet on himself and took an NXT deal. Tony Khan would have paid him more than an NXT deal, than $70,000 a year or whatever it is. It isn't much more if it's more. But Dragon Lee wanted to bet on himself, and he preferred the higher potential upside of making it big in WWE. That's what he wanted. That's what he took. Good for him. Jade? I don't know. Was there a bidding war? Did Tony tap out and say, I got everything I'm going to get out of her? She doesn't fit our style. There's no effective way to book her from here. I'm going to let them win this one. I don't know.
Yeah, and that could just simply be one that, again, if you're WWE, like that's one maybe that you do say, all right, well, that's somebody that has a ton of potential or whatever. We can talk about her a little bit later if we want as well. But that's somebody that does have a ton of potential, somebody that we could, instead of paying X amount of millions of dollars to retain Adam Copeland, we'll pay, whatever amount, Jade will be significantly less, but maybe we get a little bit more out of her. That is I think if you're going to win any of these wars, that's one that you win. That's one that you try to win if you're WWE. That makes sense from a TKO standpoint, from a, similar to what UFC would do standpoint is bet on someone that's a little more up and coming and then let kind of the older, more expensive people go. And if AEW wants to sign them, great. That's where I think the Jade one is. The Jade one is one where you say, okay, if we're gonna outbid them on any of these people, Jade's definitely one of them. And like you said, when we talked about it at the time, there's a very likely thing that they got to a certain point where Tony just said, you know what, I don't think you're worth that amount of money, so I'll let you go. Good luck in your future endeavors. And so far, he might be right. So far, he might be right about that, because I don't know if WWE's got a little buyer's remorse about Jade. They're still working themselves into a shoot about what she's capable of doing and what she can do, and what their competitors need to do to be on TV or whatever. But that's one that maybe Tony made the right play to say, you know what, hey, if they want to pay her whatever, I don't really want to pay her that, so you know what, more power to you, go for that. But someone like an Okada, like you said, that's one that I think he is going to spend a little bit more on, and they might say, well, there's not as much upside. We're not going to get as much of a return on investment as we would with a Jade or with maybe a Dragon Lee or that type.
But I don't even know if he got outbid for Jade. Because remember, her representatives are close to Endeavor.
Yeah, I think they are. I think they work quite literally Endeavor, right?
And
I think she was rep Endeavor.
Right. So it could have been a situation where she was just dead set on going to WWE and she was going to get a 7-figure deal with either way. And maybe she saw a ceiling in AEW. Maybe she figured WWE is a bigger company where she could ultimately make more money and it could provide her with more outside opportunities. So, but for the sake of the discussion, let's say that those are the two he lost, Dragon Lee and Jade. And we know Dragon Lee's wasn't money. He doesn't lose these. He's won every other. He won Ospreay. He won Copeland. He won Sasha Banks. And all of the others a level below. He wins every one of these. So it would stand to reason that if he loses on Okada, and it doesn't look like he's going to, it's not going to be because he got outbid. And I flat out was told he's never going to be outbid for Okada. It's just not going to happen. So, look, you can do the math on Okada. Who got Will Ospreay into New Japan? Okada. Who's been tight with Okada all along? Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay spends 7 years in New Japan. It's the perfect time for him to make life-changing money. No one would begrudge him for hitting free agency. The yen is bottoming out in Japan. There's big money bidders in the U.S. Will Ospreay cashed out. He signs with AEW. You know, they have the same agent. He obviously suggested the agent to Okada. You don't need to be a genius to figure that out. So it all adds up.
Right. You helped me out all those many years ago, and now I'm going to help you out here. Talk to this guy, call this guy, and become a millionaire. I'm going to make you a multi-millionaire overnight. Call this guy right now.
And why wouldn't he say, Okada-san, come with me to AEW?
He did. He essentially said that after their match.
He literally said it. You know, both privately and after the match. I wouldn't be surprised if we cross paths again somewhere else. You know, and Okada has an established relationship with Tony Khan. Okada has an infamous established relationship with the Young Bucks. It just makes too much sense, especially when that's going to be the bigger money offer. It just comes down to, does walking out in a WrestleMania main event mean that much to you, where you will take several million less? And for some people, it does. You know, I'm not knocking people for that. For some people, it does. And yeah, I do think the potential earning upside is higher in WWE. But, you know, Okada probably sees, he sees Nakamura there. Let alone all of the other Japanese talent there. And probably is a little concerned. It could not work out. Yeah, it could be in Nakamura's spot, but that's not. Nakamura's never going to be the top guy. Everybody knows that. He'll flirt with the main events now and then. So, yeah, I figure it all added up to AEW all along when you really put everything together. So, you know, like everybody else, like I've been saying for weeks, that's where ultimately I think he's going to end up. And, you know, that, like Will Ospreay talked about after his match, he got that worked into his deal that he can go back and work New Japan, like a lot of these guys do. And that, I don't know if that's something that WWE would give Okada or Will Ospreay or any of these guys. And if they truly wanted to be competitive in the free agent marketplace, they would start doing that.
They'd be more open about that. Yeah. And I think they've floated that out. I forget who it was. They floated that out, that they were a little more open and that people could take some bookings or whatever. But I mean, they did that goddamn, we know that they did that. And it's a slightly different company now, obviously, than it was. But, you know, go back and look at the early days of the Cruiserweight Classic and NXT and NXT UK and that sort of stuff. It was always, oh, yeah, no, you want to go anywhere? Yeah, you can still work your indies. We just need you when we need you. Oh, yeah, sure, you could. And little by little, we all knew that was never going to last. And we laughed about it at the time when people said, no, Pete Dunne can still work you can still do this and you can still do that. And then none of that happened. And, oh, no, Johnny Gargano can still do this. And no. And then little by little, months later, he couldn't do any of those things. And none of those guys, they were just completely stuck at certain places. So they always, I think they've always, it always sounds good, and I think they've used it in they floated reports out that guys would be able to do it, but I think deep down that company would never. Just given how we know exactly how that company's structured and the way it's even still today. How I don't envision them ever letting that go and letting wrestler X go to New Japan Pro Wrestling or go to All Japan or I think that's you got the Charlie Dempsey thing, and that's a different thing altogether. But I don't know if that's indicative of the future of this company is Charlie Dempsey going to All Japan Pro Wrestling, or just literally a one-time thing with that particular guy whose dad is that particular guy. You know what I mean? Like, I think
developmental wrestler, it's when it comes to big stars, the only one I could think of, they offered it to Bryan Danielson. But it went nowhere because then they tried to cut a bigger deal with New Japan, and New Japan didn't want to do business with them. And New Japan chose to do business with AEW instead. So that's the only instance I could think of that's pretty much on record where they offered the ability for someone to work elsewhere, a big star.
Right. An actual star, yeah.
The Dempsey thing, I think, is just, they sent a developmental wrestler to go on a little mini excursion and have a couple matches in All Japan. Because as we've seen, despite the panic and scare, it hasn't really led to anything.
Nothing else has come since then, no.
Thankfully. So, as far as Okada, there's a lot of anger from some New Japan fans with the nature of his exit. And, I understand it. I can understand it. I'm not particularly wound up about it. In a perfect world, I've said it a million times, I would prefer he stay in New Japan. I don't think it's good that he's leaving New Japan. But it looks like he's going to land in AEW, which is the preferred landing spot, so I could continue enjoying his work, so he can continue working in New Japan potentially down the line. If he had ended up in WWE, I would have some morbid curiosity in his debut. And then I would quickly lose interest because it's WWE and I just don't like their product. So I'm glad if ultimately it is AEW, and it looks like it's going to be, as sort of the secondary choice, my preference would be he stay in New Japan, but I can't be mad at the guy. I mean, this is his chance to make millions of dollars. And he's taken the opportunity. And I don't think it's the death knell for New Japan that people think it is. There's a lot of problems with the Japanese economy. That's not going to last forever. And, when it comes to this idea that the American companies are just going to pluck anyone that gets over as a star, I don't know how true that is. Number one,
I don't buy that either. I don't.
Not everyone's going to be a fit for America. No, that's number one.
No, and that's, we talked about this many weeks ago when this first report of Okada leaving came up, and like I said, I think Will's kind of a different animal, obviously, because he's not he's from the UK. You know what I mean? He's in New Japan for I don't lump him the same way. You know what I mean? Like he's a guy who, you know what I mean? Like he's not a homegrown New Japan Japanese native. He is a gaijin in New Japan Pro Wrestling like that. Those guys can always get plucked up, and those guys always have the ability. So I'm not really counting him in the same way that I'm counting an Okada. But like an Okada, I feel like was a one of one guy that what. Everything that came together to make Okada what he is right now, and what he is to an American audience, and what he is to casual wrestling fans, your most dyed-in-the-wool. They know who Okada is. You know what I mean? They know who Kazuchika Okada is, and that took a lot of work to get him there. That took there needing to be a second brand, New Japan Pro Wrestling getting hot, New Japan Pro Wrestling getting access, quite literally, in some cases, on American television. That took a lot of things that had to happen for Okada to become a name that an American wrestling promotion would say, yes, this guy is worth millions of dollars, because I'm confident that our audience is going to know who this guy is right away. And we can, that first second of that song can hit, and I know that my audience is going to know that is Okada, and that he's a big-time star, and that he's worthy of paying millions of dollars to. I don't know that there's going to be a bunch of guys 10 years down the line that are going to be that for an AEW, for a WWE, whatever, because the factors that had to play in for Okada to be what he is are rare. It's very, very rare to have all these sort of things come together. New Japan is a victim of its own success in a lot of ways. They're a victim of the fact that they became so successful and that American wrestling fans that were sick of WWE wanted an alternative, sought out an alternative, and Ring of Honor was there to bring along the New Japan, really kind of help bridge that gap between American fans and New Japan fans, help bridge that gap between American wrestling fans and Japanese wrestling fans. For those that were not hardcore people listening to us and buying our New Japan ebooks or whatever, it was Ring of Honor that maybe helped you get into that. And then later it was AEW that helped you get into that. But that, like, all that sort of stuff had to all kind of come together, and it had to be this one-of-one guy, gigantic superstar, looks like $1 million, is tall and can work and has a relationship with the Young Bucks that go, like, there's all these sort of things that had to come together. And like you always bring up, a desire to go to America. You can have all those things go right, all those things that I talked about, all go perfect. And then the guy goes, no, I don't want to go to America. No, I want to live in Japan. Why would I want to live in America? And then it's over and that's dead. Okada had to be all those things and want to go to America. And that, I think, like, yeah, you're talking about a guy who is a very, very, very rare talent that has all the makings of a star, and he can be a star in America just as much as he's a star in Japan. And I don't think that's true for a lot of other guys. And that's not to say that I don't like those guys, but it's just a fact of who are you going to invest millions upon millions upon millions of dollars in. You need to make sure that guy can come out on your television and be a star. And Okada is a very, very rare breed of Japanese wrestlers in the history of Japanese wrestling that have been able to say that and to do that. And I think that's important to point out.
I'm comfortable saying he's the biggest star to ever leave New Japan. And that includes Nakamura. That includes Riki Choshu. That includes Stan Hansen. I don't care who you want to talk about. He is the biggest star to ever leave New Japan.
Right.
So it's a unique situation. You have to have someone who is desirable to the American promotions and you can be a massive star in Japan and just be a bad fit for the West. I don't think.
Honestly, the best ever before Okada is probably Great Muta, given his awesome excursions that he had and what they did to get him over and all that sort of stuff. And even then there was kind of a shelf life to that, and it was about a year or so, and it had to be the right circumstances in the right company.
You're talking about 1989?
Yeah, 89, because then he came back a bunch of other times and didn't even matter all those other times. Like, he was just a non-factor in all the other times.
Well, 89 was just an excursion.
Right. And I said that.
Yeah. So as far as someone leaving New Japan for a different company, Okada's the biggest star. There will be people that will argue and say Choshu, but it's Okada. Okay? So this is unique from that standpoint. You have to have someone who has the ability to be a huge star in the West. And like you said, these people also have to want to move to America. And not all of them are going to want to do that. Everyone's going to be different. And even if someone's a huge star in Japan, I don't think that necessarily means they're going to be desirable to American promotions. I don't think even if he were a little younger, the American promotions would be interested in Tetsuya Naito. I don't. And that's a perfect example of someone who's arguably a bigger star than Okada. But I don't think there's going to be any interest from WWE or AEW in bringing him over for a ton of money, the way there was for Okada.
Right. Nor does he want to leave Japan, as given no indications ever that he would want to leave Japan. The name I was going to bring up is Kento Miyahara. Now let's think about Kento Miyahara, who's not on the level of those guys, but say he was, a couple years younger or whatever. He's the type of guy that I'm saying that you're not going to, even if I'm Tony Khan and I fucking love Kento Miyahara, and I'm like, God damn, I can't wait to get Kento Miyahara. That's not a guy that you can bring on an audience at the HEB Center in whatever fucking town it is in Texas or whatever, and that crowd's going to know immediately who Kento Miyahara is. You might have a few fans that know who he is or whatever, but if you're investing a large amount of money in bringing a guy over, you want that guy to matter. You want that guy to mean something. And everybody listening to this show most likely knows who Kento Miyahara is and likes him and thinks he's great or whatever. But that's a different thing we're talking about. Whereas Okada, that fucking coin drops and everybody in that arena knows who he is. He is a rare case that is just not applicable to a lot of the other guys that we're talking about, a lot of the other top guys in Japan. So this idea that like anybody that's going to get over is immediately going to get plucked up, I don't think that's the case. And I think, again, another thing to bring up is that if New Japan's not as popular as it's been over the last decade and isn't seen as big of a deal in America that it was from 2013 to 2018 or 2019 or whatever you want to say, like that's going to mean a lot less people are going to care about New Japan, which might be good for fans of New Japan that don't want their talent to leave. But, you know, in terms of like an American audience really, I don't know if they're going to seek out New Japan as much as they have over the last decade. And they haven't been seeking out New Japan as much as they did in the last decade with AEW in the mix. So there's very likely a situation where a guy gets over and this person, you know, WWE or AEW does not think that person's worth the money because they're not over to the American audience the way that Okada was over to the American audience. So again, it's a different thing, man. I've been in the arena when Okada came out in front of an audience that just lost their fucking mind. You know what I mean? Like, and I was at the Wintrust Arena, and that coin dropped, and the fucking place went nuts for Okada. They knew exactly who this dude was.
I'll give you another example. I don't think Prime Tanahashi would have been as good a fit for the West as Okada either.
No. Yeah, think of 2011 Tanahashi. He jobs to Okada at New Beginning, and then he's out. He's going to go to WWE and get over? I don't think so, and I don't think they would think that either.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's too much panic. I don't think they're just
Lord Tensai was the guy they went after. Like, you know what I mean? They went after Lord Tensai.
I just don't think these companies are going to pluck anybody that gets over. I just don't think it's going to work like that. You know, and these are very similar to the discussions that we had in 2016 when Nakamura and AJ Styles and Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows left, and they made a strong play for the Tongans. Can you believe it's been like 8 years that they've been making plays for the
stronger
Tongans?
Play. Please make a stronger play, for God's sakes. God, we thought they were leaving then. Please. We thought they were leaving then. Yeah, I know. God.
Well, now they're finally gone.
Thank you.
Two of them are. I think two of them are.
Take them all. Not far enough. Take them all.
But, you know, and we came on this show and we said a lot of the same things. Now, I know the landscape was different because it was only one company and it wasn't two. And AEW certainly is more open to the idea of hiring foreign talents than WWE is. Even with WWE's new regime, I think AEW is more open to using and hiring foreign talents. I mean, Tony Khan will hire anybody that's talented. So I get that the landscape's a little different. I understand that. But there was the same level of panic. New Japan can't recover from this. They will never survive. Nakamura and AJ Styles leaving. And, you know, we calmly explained they got people on the bench. They're going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And they grew from that point. They weren't just fine. They grew. And they did better post-Exodus. And I don't think it's off the table that they grow from here. When that economy turns around there, they have people on the bench. They have their 5 core young Japanese stars, and I'm not even counting the War Dogs. Leave them out of this. But you've got Tsuji and Uemura and Fujita and Aminu and Narita. Are they all going to hit? Highly unlikely. The odds are just against that. Are they all going to flop? I don't think that's very likely either. Somebody in this group is going to become a big star. Maybe more than one. You know, it's, I think they're going to be fine. You know, and I don't think the moment that Yota Tsuji becomes a star, he's just going to get plucked by Tony Khan and end up in AEW. I just don't, for all the reasons we just talked about. It's got to be the right circumstances. It's got to be a perfect storm of circumstances on both sides. So, you know, I know.
I mean, the juice has got to be worth the squeeze on the other side, too. You know, like, Tony Khan can't go and say, you know, next year I'm going to give Yota Tsuji $3 million and get him over. I mean, that would be stupid. That'd be ridiculous business. And maybe he could afford to do that, but that would be really, really dumb business to do that, you know, given how over he would be to the American audience and that sort of stuff. So I think, again, like, you need to be in a case where the American promotion wants to give money that's going to very, very greatly outbid what the Japanese promotion is going to give for a guy, and that's got to be worth it for both ends. It's got to be worth it for the wrestler to leave and take that money, and it's got to be worth it for the American promotion to pay that money for the guy to leave or whatever. And again, in the case of Okada, it is. In the case of Okada, you can absolutely justify multiple millions of dollars in a contract for AEW. You can absolutely 100% justify that. It's hard to go through history like we just did right there. It's hard to go through history and figure out a lot of other guys. And it's hard to predict in the future a lot of other guys. They're going to be worth that amount of money to go and pluck out of Japan. So I don't buy it either. I think people are reacting to this one-of-one situation with Okada, who is still very young as well, who still has a whole lot of career ahead of him. I just don't think that doom and gloom is really worth it. It's just, I think you're, like I said, we did this exact same thing in 2016, and we were the only people on earth that were saying like, you know what, it's fine, who cares? And honestly, I'm down. I like it a lot. Like you said that you'd prefer Okada stay in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I think I'm with you too, but I think it's exciting that he's not there. And I think it's going to be exciting that he's gone. And I think it's exciting that he's moving on. And I think it's exciting that a big giant spot on the main event scene is open. And now there's a spot for somebody else to take, somebody else to elevate. And that's been the problem with New Japan for me for a lot of years. It's been the same people. I'm kind of sick of the roster. So it'd be really nice to have that roster get changed up a little bit and have new people elevated and new people move to big spots. So I'm excited about it personally. Like I think it's really cool.
I mean,
for the booking of New Japan.
I would have picked a lot of people to leave before him, even though I'm not thrilled with the roster right now either. But
making the best of the bad situation for sure. I don't want AJ Styles to leave when he left. I mean, that sucked. I didn't want Nakamura to leave when Nakamura left, but it gave us Kenny Omega. It gave us, even more of a rise of Okada. I'm not saying that that's going to happen this time, and I don't know if those guys are ready to do that elevation yet either, but I think it could be exciting for New Japan in a lot of ways.
Well, I mean, it's going to force them to kind of speed some of this up.
Which they need to do badly.
Which they need to do, which I can demonstrate for people right now, because the other piece of this is there was a lot of talk that Okada did the company dirty by not putting any of these young guys over on the way out. And I think that's just a load of bullshit. First of all, he didn't even hire Barry Bloom. There were no reports that he was even talking to Barry Bloom till like December 19th. Okay, look it up. When did you want him to do all these jobs? Between December 19th and today? Did you want them to tear up the Wrestle Kingdom plans with Bryan Danielson and get him in there to lose to fucking Ren Narita or take your pick? They weren't going to do that. Okay? So they didn't know he would, and and they didn't know he was leaving until January. He didn't tell them until January. So this idea that he should have done all these jobs, he didn't even know he was going. He may have had an inkling that he was thinking about going. He may have been leaning one way or the other. But he didn't make his decision until January. So there's a lot of revisionist history going on in terms of this guy wasting all year, not working with all these young guys and allegedly doing all these jobs. And yeah, I know that report came out from Super J-Cast that there were times where he may have turned down working with some of these guys. But at the same time, nobody else is working with these guys. So he may have viewed it as, why should I be the one? I'm in my prime. I'm still a star here. Maybe he pulled that don't work for me, brother card. And I don't even know if I can necessarily blame him if that was the case, because it's not like they were programming any of these young guys with anybody else. I mean, I could go through all of them. Yota Tsuji. Here are all of it. Here is a complete list of singles matches. Guys that it was Chase Owens and Luke Jacobs. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know if you can count Luke Jacobs because that was on a show in fucking England.
Right.
Okay. In terms of singles matches that he won. Uemura. There are none. He hasn't beaten anybody in a singles match. Fujita. He had a draw with Taguchi. No other wins over anyone of note. I'm not counting the matches against each other, the other young guys.
Right, because people are going to say, well, they were in the blocks together, so they beat each other. You're talking about people of any sort of...
I'm talking about
not eating your own. Established people above the rung of them.
On the roster.
Right.
Not against each other, not against the War Dogs who are in the same spot as them. For Shota Umino, he beat Zack Sabre Jr., and then Sabre got his win back. Yujiro and Chase Owens. Ren Narita, surprisingly out of the 5, has the most wins over what I would call the biggest established stars. He beat, in the TV title tournament, when they were pushing him, Ishii, Yano, and Sonata. And this was before Sonata got his push to the title. And Sonata later got the win back. Okay? And then his other two wins were Chase Owens and Kaito Kiyomiya, who doesn't work for the company.
Right.
So somebody show me all of these other top stars who are working with and putting these guys over. They don't exist. So if you're going to get on Okada's case, keep that same energy for the other top stars in the company. And let's talk about those guys. Out of those 5 young wrestlers who we all agree are the future of the company.
Right.
Do you know how many Tetsuya Naito has worked with?
Tetsuya Naito, he has worked, you talking one-on-one or directly?
Singles matches.
Singles matches? I would say off the top of my head, he did,
I'll give you the answer. He's worked with 1. He had a match with Umino at New Beginning.
That's right. That was the one. Okay, right. I was trying to remember.
That's it.
I thought he had but then he wouldn't have had a Tsuji match because they're in the same unit. So yeah,
one match.
Of course, yeah.
Here's who Tanahashi has worked with on that list. Prime to be beaten, by the way. No need to worry about beating Tanahashi.
Right, President Man, clearly on the way out, clearly done.
Here's the complete list of young talent that Tanahashi has wrestled, not even necessarily lost to.
Not necessarily
wrestled.
put over, but wrestled. To give them a one-on-one match, yes. Yep.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the list.
All right. Joe, you still there?
I'm still here. That's the list. None of them.
Damn it. So it's 0.
None of them. He hasn't stepped in a ring with any of those 5 one-on-one. But this is all Okada. This is all on Okada. Okay? So Sonata ends up in the G1 block with these guys. And the story is Okada could have been in that block, but turned it down.
Right, which would have made a little more sense. And I said it at the time, too, because Okada was doing the I'm sick of these young guys story at the beginning of the year, and it made sense that Okada would be in that block, potentially, and then he wasn't, and Sonata was in the block instead. But, yeah. That was weird at the time. I thought that was weird at the time, but I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't think it was weird at the time. And I think, again, this is revisionist history. What difference does it make whether it's Sonata or Okada beating all of these kids? If it was Okada in that block, are you telling me that these 5 guys would be megastars now because they lost to Okada instead of the guy who was the champion, by the way?
Right, who was the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion at the time, yeah.
You think that would have made such a huge difference? I don't. Okada beating all these guys like a drum. Every one of them eating a Rainmaker, which is what would have happened. And here's the other thing. Here's why it's a bunch of bullshit, okay? You know who else was in that block? With Tsuji and Aminu and Narita and Gabe Kidd. You know who else was in that block with Sonata and those guys? Hikuleo. And he beat those guys too. Instead of pointing the finger at Okada, who has earned the right to say, no thanks, I'm the biggest star in this company ever, aside from Inoki.
Or simply say, give me a reason to lose to these guys. Why am I losing to these guys?
Instead of pointing the finger at him, when are we going to point the finger at the booking where Hikuleo is the other guy coming out of the block and winning matches against these guys?
Right, Hikuleo beat Ren Narita, he beat Umino, and he beat Tsuji in that block.
He beat Tsuji? Who else did he beat?
He beat Tsuji, he beat Umino, and he beat Narita in the block.
He beat 3 of them.
Yep.
Hikuleo! But this is on Okada. We're mad at Okada. Okay? This is utter nonsense. And oh, by the way, who put Sonata over when he won the world title?
Okada.
After a years-long rivalry, who put Sonata over to win the world title? So I just think this is a load of bullshit. He didn't even know he was leaving until January. They didn't know he was leaving. Do you know how I know they didn't know he was leaving? They had to rebook the entire New Beginning tour. That's how I know they didn't know he was leaving.
Yeah, they did a press release that said we're changing everything. Give us time to figure out what we're doing now to get this thing back on track. Yeah, it's well, and to my point too is like, you know, just simply losing to guys to lose to guys is one thing. If you expect that out of a guy who's departing or whatever, which is again, I don't know, but there has to be a reason to lose to these guys. There needs to be a purpose to losing to these guys. Okada is still, I mean, like you said, he's one of the tippy top stars that this company has ever had. He's not just going to say, yeah, sure, you know, rebook New Beginning and have me lose to all 4 of these guys. No problem, whatever. Yeah, I'll do that. Now, anybody who assumes that any top star would do that is nuts. No top star would do that. Nobody is going to do that. Also, like, there needs to be if these guys were ready to go, and it was obvious these guys were ready to go, and it was obvious that they're just that Yota Tsuji was one win away from just becoming a gigantic mega superstar, or you know, there's things that you can do that make sense, and everybody will go back to, oh well, Tanahashi was so selfless when he lost Okada, and we've said it 1,000 times too. That was the all-time great move by Tanahashi to do that. But it was an all-time great move by Tanahashi. We talked about this last week too, because he knew he was going to work with this guy for another fucking decade, and that's why he loses. Tanahashi didn't do it out of the kindness of his heart. He did it so he had a guy to face for the next decade, and he did. We just saw him wrap up the series of matches that these guys had. That's why he lost, and for more, you know, that's a bigger piece of this is it's a lot easier to lose to a guy if you know that you're going to make a dude and you're going to have that guy to work with for years and years and years. I'm doing a series right now on our Patreon about Sting, and I just covered the Ric Flair versus Sting match at Clash of the Champions 1. Now, obviously, Ric Flair didn't lose that match, but he went to a draw with Sting, and that's a famous, you know, made a guy in one night match is Ric Flair making Sting in one night. Ric Flair didn't do that out of the kindness of his heart. Ric Flair didn't say, shucks, kid, I'm going to do it so you're, you know. He did it so that he could work with this guy for another decade plus. And obviously, Ric Flair would end up leaving and going to WWF or whatever, but he made Sting a star because he knew he needed a guy, and he wanted a guy that he could work with. He needed a babyface to work with for the next decade or whatever, and he did. And that's exactly the purpose of doing that. So, I mean, this idea that like Okada should do, like what you pointed out, what no other top guy in New Japan is doing right now, and it's working with and losing to the young guys. Also, he's not the fucking booker. You know what I mean? Like but even if even if he did have that power and wielded that power to say, you know what you're going to do? You're going to have me face this guy, and this guy, and I'm going to lose to them all. Those guys haven't been done right by booking either. They haven't been ready to go anyway. So now you're stuck in this situation where Okada's leaving. None of these guys are truly ready to move up to that next level. Like maybe there would have been a really good, like I said, had Yota Tsuji, had Yu Uemura, had Ren Narita, had, you know, one of these guys been ready to go, Shota Umino, whether these guys was right on the cusp, right there. Oh my God, they're just one win away. Then maybe you could have said, hey, Okada, can we have on Sapporo? Would you mind, you know, losing to Umino, and maybe if that guy was just right on the cusp and just right about there, it would make a little more sense, and maybe it would be okay, and maybe Okada would say yeah or whatever. I don't know. Maybe he'd still say no. Who knows? But they haven't really set any of those guys up anyway. So it's like, I think it would be even more worthless to just pack Okada into 4 matches with young guys and have him lose every single one just to say, there, he lost to the young guys. Like, there has to be a reason, there has to be a purpose, there needs to be, you know, some sense in the booking. And I'm sorry, New Japan has just had very slow and sometimes senseless booking lately, and stuff like this where those young guys are not ready to go and aren't really at this point. I screamed about this last year, and people told me I was being an idiot about it, and I was screaming about this. It's time to go with these guys. Let's let's put the pedal down. Let's go. Let's do something with these guys. You're just sitting here with these people. And fuck, I said it about the G1 last year, and everybody told me, oh, no, it's really good that they're all in the G1 together because you can tell future stories now that all these guys are in there together. And now you have future stories about the G1. And I said, yeah, that's one way. But I think maybe now it's time for them to start getting wins over these guys and start really moving up this ladder, because now they're all in the same spot they were a year ago. And nobody's really ready. And now Okada's leaving. And, okay, eventually a guy's going to get elevated. But I don't know. It just feels like I can't get mad at Okada for any of this. I can get very mad at New Japan booking for a lot of this. And again, you can get mad at that Okada is leaving them on relatively short notice if you want or whatever, but everybody knows how the contracts work in Japan. Everybody knows the structure of the contracts. Like it's he's not the only guy that's done this, and he won't be the last guy that does this. And maybe he should have done them more of a solid or whatever, but I don't know. I think he's earned the right to kind of be a big boy about this and decide, you know what, I'm leaving. Bye. And I don't know. I'm not that worked up about this, but I am worked up about New Japan booking. And I have been worked up about New Japan booking for years. And I keep being told, no, it's okay. It's right. This is the way to do it. They move slow. You know what they do. This is how they do it. This is how they do it. This is how they do it. Well, I think you're going to have to do it a little different because now you're in a situation where I don't know that any of those young guys are ready to make that leap up. And now Okada and Ospreay are leaving. Those are two massive gaps now in your main event scene that are now missing. And I don't know. Maybe been well and good to tell future stories in the G1 block, but I think you may have been better off having these guys get some big wins over some top guys and established guys, having them work with established guys, and they're not, and they haven't, and they're not going to because two of those established guys are leaving.
They don't beat anybody. None of these kids beat anybody. Three of them have beat Chase Owens. That's the level of person that they beat. They beat guys who don't work for the company. And Chase Owens.
Right. They beat Kaito Kiyomiya and Yujiro and Chase Owens. Yeah. While Hikuleo beats them. While Hikuleo's a step above they are.
Exactly. So this idea that Okada working with them just would have been some kind of sprinkle of magic, I don't buy it. It's a load of shit. They're not even booking these guys to beat Hikuleo, who has no future, by the way. Okay, he doesn't. Let's be honest.
I'm getting off that island. I was on that island briefly, and it's taking a lot of water, and there's snakes, and I don't want to be on the island anymore. So now I have, I'm waving down boats, I'm waving down planes, I'm ready to get off the island. I'm
the guy is he's on the first plane to Connecticut. First chance he gets anyway. 7 foot tall. So you can't sit here and sell me on this, that it's Okada's fault that these guys, that their development is stunted when this company won't even put them over Hikuleo. It falls apart. And they had Okada working with Kiyomiya. And if I'm Okada and you approach me and you ask me to put him over, I laugh in your face. He don't even go here. And I'm going to put this guy over who doesn't work here, who Muto wouldn't put over. I'm going to look like the goof losing to a guy who couldn't beat a broken down 60-year-old dinosaur. I'm going to lose to him, though. And I'm not saying they asked him to, but that's who he was programmed with early in the year. And it was a very one-sided feud, as it should have been. As it should be,
because one guy is Kaito Kiyomiya and the other guy is Okada. So, yeah, it's...
He doesn't work there. And Muto beat him like a drum. So what would that mean politically? Muto, who worked in the same company as the kid, wouldn't even put him over. But I should? No. I'm going to geek him out the way that I did. So, I don't know. Again, who else are these guys working with and getting put over by? Nobody. So I'm sorry, I just don't buy that narrative. People can be mad at the guy if they want. They're leaving, but let's pump the brakes on this idea that it was his responsibility to spend all year putting these guys over. Whether that be laying on his back for him or working with him or anything else.
Unless, like you said, Naito was working with all these guys and Tanahashi was working with all these guys and everybody else was working with all these guys, but then there's this one dude who just won't work with any of the young guys and beats him every time he does work with them. But that's not the case. You just laid it out right there. None of these guys are working with the young guys. And again, I'm not blaming Naito and I'm not blaming Tanahashi. I'm not blaming all these other guys. I'm blaming the booking that is molasses slow with pushing these young guys to the point of just, come on, man. The writing was on the wall 2 years ago. These are the guys that you need to start pushing. And these guys proved it throughout the year, too.
Now maybe they'll.
And maybe they will, but they're forced to. So it's like, I don't know. I think you had a situation, and they did this in 2016. They did this, we said it at the time in 2016. You know what? They've done a really good job with having a lot of guys that are right on the cusp of coming up. We said about Kenny Omega. Right on the cusp of coming up. He's right there. He just needs the opportunity, just needs the spot and a little bit of good booking. And what happened in 4 months' time after that? He's winning G1s. And
listen, I'll go a step further than you. I don't even have a problem with how they book these 5 guys this year. This is New Japan's way.
Their way sucks. They need a new way because their way is not good. It's not working. I'm sorry. Their way is boring.
Determined. I don't know if it's not working.
Because
because
the problem is they push Finley and they push Tama Tonga and they push Sonata and they push Hikuleo. Their way sucks. They're pushing the wrong guys, is what they're doing.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm not going to defend pushing Hikuleo.
What about pushing David Finley? They pushed David Finley this year.
I don't like it. Is it going to work? I don't know. To be determined. I don't know. I don't like it, though. I agree with you. I don't want to see these guys get pushed. I was ready to be done with Finley years ago. Someone listened to one of our old shows. The first time we said Finley needs a change of scenery, he's hit his ceiling here, was like 2016 or something. Maybe not that long ago. It was years ago. It was pre-pandemic we said that. Here we are. He's still here. And now he's getting pushed. It's crazy. But I feel like somewhere along the line, okay, the narrative shifted. Everyone was thrilled with how they were bringing these guys along all year and planting seeds. No one complained about that G1 block except you, as you just laid out. Everyone else seemed to love it and thought it was great that these guys were all on the same G1 block. They get to wrestle each other. They get to set the stage for years from now. I agree. But then when Okada decided to leave, we went back and revised history a lot when it came to these 5 guys. All of a sudden it was, we didn't do enough and it's all Okada's fault. Oh, that G1 block, it should have been Okada. When in real time, everyone praised that block and thought it was a great idea. Then it played out and the booking was garbage. And I talked about it in real time on my shows, the G1 shows. Hikuleo? He should have won a couple of matches at the most. That's the perfect guy for these guys to beat. And he came out of the block. What the fuck?
I forgot he came out of the block.
I mean, that's just malpractice.
It is, yeah. I think that they have a way. I know they have a way, but the way that they've had, they've pushed and they've protected a lot of guys that I do not think are worthy of that. They gave a world title to Sonata. I would have never done that in a million years. They've, like you said, they protect Hikuleo more than they protect a lot of the other young guys. They push David Finley. I would never in a million years push David Finley. They push Tama Tonga.
You had to set up Hikuleo for a tag team title run that ends with Kenta and Chase Owens.
Oh.
You had to set him up for that.
Yeah, the match that we saw here in Osaka. Fuck me. Jesus Christ.
Hey, listen. At least David Finley and Tama Tonga got legitimate pushes. Hikuleo, what did it lead to? Like, the worst tag team champions they've had in years, and a reign that ends to Kenta and Chase Owens, which tells you it was meant to go nowhere. And that's who was beating these guys in the G1. And we're pointing the finger at Okada because maybe he didn't want to be in that block. I don't know. It's all a load of bullshit to me. I don't buy it. I'm sorry. I don't buy it. Maybe there was a little, this doesn't work for me, brother. I'm not denying that. Maybe there was. Hasn't he earned the right to call some of his own shots?
It happens more than people think, to be honest.
Way more than people think. Let me tell you something. Yeah. Like I said, if all these other big stars were working with these guys all year and putting them over, I'd be right there along everybody else. Saying,
Again, yeah, I said it a couple minutes ago. If you went down that list of all the other guys and you said Naito worked with Bam, 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 and Tanahashi worked with Bam, 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 and this guy worked with, and Shingo worked with Bam, Bam, like all these guys, and then Okada, you're like, nah, nobody, not one. I was like, okay, that's kind of weird that all these other guys are all working with young dudes and Okada's not. Then I would say, all right, that seems like something weird's happening with Okada, but why is it Okada's prerogative to do that when nobody else is doing that in the company? It's strange. So I'm with you.
I think the idea is, well, he's a snake who knew he was leaving, and I don't know if I buy that. If he knew he was leaving in fucking May,
that's still not his obligation to do that.
Well, he wouldn't have announced it in fucking January. He was obviously indecisive and torn up by the decision. He didn't even hire the agent until late December. So if the idea is he was plotting this all along and just didn't want to do any jobs or help out the company because he knew he was on his way out, I don't buy that. I don't think he knew he was on his way out until that Thursday when we were on the air, when he told them he was on his way out, which was after Wrestle Kingdom, right? It was in January. It was like in January.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's the we should go through the rest of the card.
We should.
For this new beginning. So did you watch the whole show? I watched the whole show.
I watched bits and pieces of the undercard, so I'll give you results if you want, and I can jump in when necessary. I watched bits and pieces of it. I did not see every single match.
How about with the state of my voice, give the result. I'll give a little thought on these undercards, and then we could talk more at length about
Let's do that. So Toru Yano and Yo defeated Oleg Boltin and Ryusuke Taguchi. I cannot imagine you have many thoughts about this match, but
no, they just kept it super short, and there wasn't much to
3
it
minutes.
at all.
Yeah,
and,
3 minutes and 45 seconds. Yeah. Very, very short.
We've
Bishamon Goto.
gotten our wish. We've gotten our wish with Taguchi, where he's just completely out of the mix for anything that means anything.
Fine with me.
Which, long overdue.
Long overdue. Bishamon Goto and Yoshihashi, of course, defeated Callum Newman and Great Okan. This one about 7 minutes and 37 seconds as well.
So just a strong tag team win for the strongest push tag team in the company over the last year or so, Bishamon. So, Callum Newman, you want to talk about him now or wait till the main event? You want to just do him now?
Let's do it now. Yeah, let's do it now. Because you and I have both been pretty high on him for a little while now, for a couple of years. If you've listened to this, been listening to this show, you know this name. If you listen to us, you know this name. We've been talking about him. Ospreay's had his eyes on this guy for years as well. So we've been pretty high on him.
Yeah, he's Ospreay's protege, and Ospreay spoke about him in the post-match comments after the main event. I don't know. Did you watch the post-match comments or just the in-ring?
I did. I watched the post-match too, yeah.
So he made it a point to bring up Callum Newman and tell everybody to keep an eye on him and take care of him. And he's way better than me at the same age, which is something I have been saying for a couple of years now. Callum Newman is 21 years old. And
what was Will? Yeah, what was Will when he was 21? What year is that?
He was 2014. It was right around the time he was having the series of matches with Matt Sydal that kind of really broke him out outside of Europe.
Yeah, he was still...
And there is no question.
Yeah, he was pretty rough.
Callum Newman is better today than Will Ospreay was in 2014. It's undeniable.
Yeah, I think I could get down with that easily.
In 2014, Will Ospreay was obviously a top-level prospect who everyone knew had a chance to be great, who had tons of flaws. All the shit that stupid people still say about Will Ospreay today were true in 2014. It's just that those people have never, in 10 years, adjusted their opinions with reality. But that's what Ospreay was, a guy who did a lot of flippy doos, but didn't know how to sell. That's not Callum Newman. He is way more advanced at the same age than Ospreay, and it was so funny that Ospreay said that because that's what I've been saying about Callum Newman. Watch out because he's better than Will was at this age. Now, is he going to have Will Ospreay's charisma? Is he going to be as good as Will Ospreay, who I think is an all-time great at this point? That's asking a lot.
Yeah, does he have the desire to be as great as Will was? Because Will just worked his fucking ass off like no other guy that I've ever seen in wrestling history who just so badly loved wrestling and wanted to be great at wrestling. And Will's like a one of one in that, of a guy that you could just see, and he would work everywhere against anybody, anytime, did not matter. He just wanted to get better and get reps and wrestle and go out there and do those sort of things. So yeah, you got to be one of the all-time hardest workers ever to reach Will Ospreay's level, and that might not happen.
But he got to New Japan 2 or 3 years before Will did.
Yeah.
No. And Newman's a guy who, like Will, his talent was obvious the first time I watched him, and he has a chance to be a real star moving forward. There's no question about it. And Will Ospreay handpicked him for a reason. He got him into New Japan for a reason. And he made sure before he left this company that he put the guy over. And, he's taking his lumps and he's a pin eater right now, as he should be. but it's someone to keep an eye on. I think he has gained. He's put on some weight, which is a good thing. Because he wasn't going to make it with that body, but he was a literal kid. He was 18, 19 years old when we first started watching him. He's now 21.
Well, remember what Will looked like? Remember what he looked like in 2014?
Yeah, exactly.
He was 110 pounds, soaking wet, maybe. You know what I mean? He was a little beanpole, is what Stu Williams just said in the chat room. He just said, Swords of Essex beanpole, Will Ospreay. I mean, he was just, it looked like nothing. He was just nothing. But yeah, it takes a lot of work and a lot of energy to get your body to where it's going to get to, and get your body to where Will's body is at this point.
Yeah, and he's got Will Ospreay to guide him through, and because Ospreay already walked the path that this kid is beginning to walk. So, so Bishamon, look, I would presume that they're headed back into a tag team title program with Kenta and Chase Owens, but who knows? I think they should just put the titles back on those guys because they're a stable tag team. They have good matches, and I don't like anything about the tag team division since they've lost the titles.
No.
So.
No. Yeah, we'll talk about that match in a little bit. Just five guys, Dookie. Oh, sorry, House of Torture. I skipped a House of Torture match. How could I? I also skipped this in my viewing as well, so you'll have to chime in here because I did not watch this. I have no time for House of Torture in my life. Evil, Ren Narita, Sho, and Yujiro defeat El Desperado, Shota Umino, Tiger Mask, and Tomoaki Hanma. Yeah, not watching that match.
Yeah, well, it's just, it's Evil and Shota Umino and Sho and Despy, setting up future matches more than anything else here. It's nothing else to note. Very weird babyface side. Despy, kind of a man on an island. Shota Umino, and then with Tiger Mask and Tomoaki Hanma, right. Just drifting into town to work the fucking dates, so. But yeah, they're just setting up the future singles matches with the bigger stars in the bout.
And then just five guys, Dookie, Sonata, Taichi, Taka Michinoku, Yuya Uemura defeat LIJ, Bushi, Hiromu, Shingo, Naito, Yota Tsuji.
Yeah, did you watch the not the elimination match, the gauntlet match between these two teams in Korakuen?
I didn't, actually. I heard that was pretty solid. I should probably check that out.
So you could really just fast forward to the final leg, which was Uemura and Tsuji. And Tsuji beat him with the spear. So it's not like they're not putting a focus on these guys. They are. If you remember, we just talked about Will Ospreay. When he first came in and was a member of Chaos, and they were doing all those elimination matches at Korakuen, he would often be the last guy left. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
In like the elimination match. So it's kind of like the same thing. And that tells you who they believe in and who they think can be a star. And they gave Uemura and Tsuji a lot of time in there with each other. And they had like a really cool like mini singles match with a lot of heat at the end of that gauntlet match. Now, listen, you're not going to confuse this gauntlet match with like the classic gauntlet matches of the past.
Of course. Yeah. Right.
Okay. Don't, so I'm saying like the rest of it is mostly skippable, but it wouldn't be a waste of time to watch those two guys at the end. So yeah, these two units have been feuding, and this was just on this night. Sonata and Naito were not the focus, so they were in a tag deep down on the card, and then we entered the business end of things.
Right. So Okada and Tanahashi, we talked about that. We both gave our thoughts on that. IWGP Tag Team titles: Bullet Club, Chase Owens and Kenta defeat the Guerrillas of Destiny, El Phantasmo and Hikuleo. To win the titles. This was fucking atrocious. God, this is terrible. You don't see the level of the floor on most New Japan matches is pretty good, man. This one was right at the floor or just below it, man. This was as bad as it gets in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I thought this was atrocious. Terrible match.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just a very much an American style tag team title match, and Taiji Ishimori he cost Phantasmo and Hikuleo the titles, and a very American style finish, but I didn't have any expectations. I have to be honest. I'm happy the titles changed hands. I cannot stand this Phantasmo Hikuleo.
I don't know if it changed to the right team. I don't know if I can be happy about Chase Owens and Kenta.
No, I don't care. Get Hikuleo and Phantasmo out of here and just have Bishamon beat Owens and Kenta or whatever. And I listen, people can bury me all they want. I'd rather watch Kenta and Chase Owens than Phantasmo and Hikuleo. I hate that fucking team.
That's a tough. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I get that. I get. Yeah, they were not good. This was a bad title reign, and they are a very bad team. So I get that.
I just have no interest in Hikuleo at all. I'm out on him. And Phantasmo as a babyface, which I knew was going to be his ultimate destination, just isn't working for me. So maybe as a single, he'll work better. Because I don't think they're going to have big plans for Chase Owens and Kenta. They're just going to lose the titles to whatever other babyface they have planned.
Bishamon, probably. It's probably just going back to Bishamon.
Which is fine.
Right.
Which is so whatever.
This division, man. This division's been...
It's terrible.
It's been in a rough place for a long time. Yeah, it's been in a rough place for a very long time. When it's not on Bishamon, and even then when it's on Bishamon, it's like, again? All right.
I mean, last year, with Bishamon and Okada and Tanahashi, a while back, maybe a year ago or so, it really wasn't that bad. It's more of a recent thing where it's really gone into the shitter. I just haven't had any interest in these tag team title matches.
And then we had, let's get into a positive thing here. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Bryan Danielson. Zack Sabre Jr. getting the win, getting his revenge from Wrestle Dream, getting the win over Bryan Danielson. Joe, I fucking loved this match. This was extremely my shit. Just a war between these two guys. It went 32 minutes, but I don't care. I thought the pacing was good. I thought the work was good. I thought this was just two dudes that just and like the first match had a level of respect to an extent. You know what I mean? It had a little bit. This one had no respect. This was just guys spitting at each other, slapping each other, locking on holds, being assholes to each other. Just guys being dudes and just locking each other in holds and spitting and slapping and snarling and just I there's not much. There's not much more I could say that about how much I love this match. It was just it was one of the better New Japan matches I've seen in quite some time. I got to think back to if anything at Wrestle Kingdom made me feel like this match made me feel. I don't remember, but man, it just landed on me for the right night. And maybe it was because I was kind of down on Okada and Tanahashi, and then I watched that fucking tag match, and I was like, oh dear God, I was like, what has happened in New Japan? And then these guys come out here and they just grapple and they just work, and everything is snug and everything makes sense. And it's like, last week we talked about how NXT will do this, like the attempt at like grappling, and it's just the worst shit you've ever seen. It's Roxanne Perez taking 5 minutes to do a backslide and slowly roll out of it, and like not everything seems coordinated and purposeful and all that sort of stuff. This is the exact opposite with this match. I mean, everything that these guys did was like a struggle, and I got your arm, and oh wait, now you got my arm, and now I have your leg, and it's just little stuff like that, little stuff that like if you're a fan of like kind of grappling, you got that. But then at some points of the match, they just decided, let's just slap the fuck out of each other too. Let's just drop each other on our heads. And that, I love that it wasn't strictly grappling, that you had a little bit of hatred involved in it as well. But I can't say enough great things about this match. Whereas the Wrestle Dream match, I was a little, maybe not disappointed, but a little underwhelmed with the Wrestle Dream match that I think I still liked, but made it to our top 10 of our match of the year. And we talked about on our reaction show to the top 10 we did on the Patreon that we were kind of surprised that it made it to the top 10. This is a match that I thought blew away the Wrestle Dream match. I flirted with 5 stars in this one. I ultimately went 4 3/4, but I thought this was just phenomenal pro wrestling and exactly the type of wrestling that I want and I need, especially after that tag title match. Just the guys in the both in the leg hold and just slapping each other back and forth and spitting at each other. I was just, it's just what I love about pro wrestling, man. So I adored this match.
Yeah, this was a masterpiece. I thought it was significantly better than the Wrestle Dream match, which I thought was an excellent match. But this is a surefire match of the year contender. It's the best match I've seen this year. I know it's only February, but it was just great. This is what I want out of pro wrestling right now. It's and I don't want to argue with a straw man or argue with the world's dumbest people, but there's this constant conversation about storytelling in wrestling, and the pre-match video completely laid this out. They wrestled once in 2018 in a small bar somewhere in
2008.
2008. Yeah, that's what I meant. in a small bar somewhere, and Danielson won a 2 out of 3 falls match. Then they wrestled in a tournament.
Danielson says, I think there was like 20, maybe 30 people there or something like that. You know what I mean? It's just like, doesn't matter. Nobody was there.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
And they wrestled a tournament in Europe for WXW, and they had the match at Wrestle Dream, and that led to this. And here's the story. The widely recognized 2 best technical wrestlers in the world at the same time, over the same time period, are having their 4th ever match against one another. And they want to tap each other out. Danielson won last time, but he didn't tap him out. And Sabre thinks that was the cheap way out, because the idea was someone's got to tap the other guy out. And here they are hooking it up again. And the intensity with everything, it's like you mentioned briefly, Roxanne Perez and Laya Valkyria, or whatever her name is, and how we buried their chain wrestling because there was just no intensity to any of it, no struggle, just doing things. And
right.
Now
your
it's
turn,
your
my
turn
turn,
to roll
yeah,
me up. Now your turn, and just looks terrible, and it's just bad. And then you compare it to this, where it's just a real sense of struggle. 2 of the best ever in this style going out there and doing it. And
yeah, every reversal meant something. Every grab, every hold meant, and they all kind of led into one thing. It would all be there was a reason a particular reversal was being done. Yeah,
and the intensity in the strikes, and then Sabre, rolls up Danielson. He doesn't tap him out either, so there's another match coming. They're not done, and that's storytelling. This is this is the kind of storytelling I can sink my teeth into.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, Joe. It's 2 guys that are both, at the best in their. They both think that they're the best in the world at what they do, and they fight each other to determine who is the best in the world at what they do. And then one guy wins one time, and the other guy wins another time, and now they have to do it one more time to break the tie to figure out who is really the best at this thing that they do.
And neither has tapped the other out.
Nope.
Which is the goal. And they're just at this stalemate. And, this is pro wrestling storytelling. That's what this is at its best.
This used to be commonplace. This used to be commonplace too. This used to be the standard of what was being told.
And it's not a little one-act play in Las Vegas where you come out of it and you still don't know what it's leading to or what they're doing. And maybe some people like that and need that. And that's fine, I guess. But I prefer this. This is just great. And the match itself was incredible. This was a fucking masterpiece. This is it's a 5-star match to me. I can definitively say this is one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. Held my attention all the way through. I was, and again, this is storytelling. That's part of the reason I loved it so much, because of the story coming in, and because of the story they told in the ring, and because I was so fascinated with how it would end. Is Danielson going to tap him this time? Is Sabre going to tap him and then claim he has the one up? But neither guy can tap the other. And I want to see them wrestle again.
Right. Both guys have had to resort to just like, fuck it, I'll just roll you up and get the 1, 2, 3. Fine. They spend 35 minutes trying to tap each other out, and then eventually just say, I'm just going to get out of here with the win. Fine. And then Sabre rolls them up, 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. Got out of there with the win. But that there's unfinished business. Even in victory, Zack Sabre Jr. isn't happy. And even in victory, Bryan Danielson wasn't happy the first time. They want to get in that ring and get the guy in the middle of the fucking ring, put on one of their crazy submission holds, and get that motherfucker to tap out and stand up and shake their hand and say, yeah, you're the best. I got tapped out by the best.
But some people are pro wrestling fans, and some people watch this stuff for entirely different reasons. And they're so close-minded because you're missing a lot of shit that's really great. And there's a lot of different ways to tell stories through the medium of pro wrestling. And it doesn't always have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be super dramatic.
Right. Guys don't have to run each other over with cars and cut long promos and abduct babies and all that sort of stuff. You could just...
In order for it to be a story. And that's where a lot of people have gone wrong and have been taught wrong.
Right. What's the story? Where's the story? Where's the story? I just see two guys in the ring grappling and slapping each other. What's the story? And it's like...
Well, there's a 4-minute pre-match video to tell you the story. And if that's not enough story for you, then...
Here's a 30-minute match that's going to tell you the story as well.
Yeah,
Watch
and
it.
at the risk of being a gatekeeper, then you don't like pro wrestling. You like that other thing, and that's fine. But these are the kind and what AEW is doing right now, for the most part, not up and down the card. They've gotten back to their roots. And Bryan Danielson, let me talk about this for a minute. Think about this run that we would have missed out on if he would have chosen to stay. WWE.
It's revolting. It's revolting to think about.
These
he's been so good. If in a world where Will Ospreay doesn't exist, this guy is and has been far and away the best guy in wrestling. And
Listen,
I think he's not far off, and he's not far off right now, even with Will existing.
I can't argue with you if you put him ahead of Will.
No.
Since he's come to AEW. I wouldn't argue with you. And it's we would have missed out on these Zack Sabre Jr. matches.
This fucker has 14 matches that are 9+ on Cage Match right now.
Yeah, I mean the Sabre
9+.
matches, the Kenny Omega draw, the MJF match, the Okada matches, the Continental Classic,
that Roosh match. I love that Roosh match.
The Andrade TV match as well, which was another great match. The Hechicero match on Collision.
Mm-hmm. These current Kingston matches.
Yeah, the Kingston matches. The Ricky Starks strap match.
Yep. Forgot about that one. The match, I think. That one you mentioned, 7th? And that's what I think you voted
might have been the best.
Second match of the year in the mirror match of the year last year.
Yeah, and is arguably the best one. The Bandito TV match.
Right. The Fight Without Honor. Part of that match,
he
too.
had a Dynamite match with Takeshita.
Mm-hmm.
The Sammy Guevara matches. And the Daniel Garcia matches.
Yep. Part of Anarchy in the Arena as well. A vital part of Anarchy in the Arena.
The television run where he was beating guys in those short matches and just kicking their heads in, which were great little TV matches against John Silver was the one it culminated with because it was building to the Hangman matches we didn't mention.
Right. Right. The Hangman matches.
So it was John Silver, Colt Cabana.
Yeah.
I forget the other. Evil Uno, maybe. He bloodied him up, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah.
So it's like we would have had none of this.
The Nagata match
and
that
now,
he just did.
Yeah. The Yuji Nagata match.
How fucking
and
great
now,
was that? Yeah.
And next month he's going to Arena Mexico for the 8-man tag, which probably is going to set up the Blue Panther hair versus hair match.
The match that he's wanted for 25 years of his life, 26.
And he's going to beg to lose. Which, might not fill a notebook, but it's going to be something. And I'm going to love every second of it. And fuck it might reach those heights. Who knows?
That's hard. Are you going to bet against this guy? You betting against Bryan Danielson right now?
And if he would have stayed in that wretched company, remember when everyone was talking about when he came back? The Daniel Bryan Dream Match Tour.
Oh, the Dream Match Tour. Yeah, we talked. We spent almost an entire show laughing at these tweets, being like, "Oh man, he's gonna face Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa and Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate and all these guys."
And we're like, "You stupid fucking idiots! You're not getting any of them."
Yeah, none of those matches. Every single match that you listed, not a single one of those is happening. By the way,
and if you get them, they're gonna be worked in that house style. They're not going to reach their peaks. And you barely got any of them. But he got out of there.
You got big Cass, by the way. You got big fucking Cass.
Right out of the gate.
That's what you got. You got this guy small, that guy big is what you got right out of the fucking gates.
and later on you got some decent stuff.
Yeah, because he said it. Because he said, "Fucker, I want to work with Mustafa Ali." So you know what? Make me work with Mustafa Ali, and they did.
Yeah, he got on the booking team
and said, "Fucker, I'm facing Mustafa Ali."
Shit.
Right. Then Ali got hurt. And he said, "Fucker, I'm facing Kofi Kingston." Then, and then he got it.
Yeah. But we almost missed out on this run. The Minoru Suzuki match on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I always forget about that one. Yeah.
We're going to keep forgetting them, but it's like, I really believe that this run, since he's left WWE, is the best run of his career. Right there with 2006, which is the first year that comes to mind, the ROH World Title run, and any other year you want to come up with in his career. I will take this run. And I don't even know if it's controversial. Is that controversial?
No, I don't think so. I really don't. I'm with you. I think I'm with you too. I love this stuff. This stuff is just a whole nother level where I think like there was a lot of value in those other areas you're talking about, like the 2006 run. Those sort of runs are great, but he was also telling like meta stories in those runs or whatever. So not every match landed quite as much. Like if you were following Ring of Honor at the time and watching all those things at the time, yeah, it's a great, an encapsulation of a year. It was a great year, and he had a really, really fun year, and he was telling really good stories in the ring and all that sort of stuff. But now it's like, this guy comes out, and every single goddamn time he wrestles, it's just like, that match fucking rocks. You know what I mean? Like in single little snippets, then all kind of combined together, this run is better because I think his matches overall have been better. That's not to say I didn't like, the other runs were good and they were done, but like this one in terms of like an overall like great matches happening almost every time he comes out, that's where we're on right now. He the guy doesn't miss right now. Every single time out.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2006, there's like 2008 to 2009, that run, with like the Morishima, isn't that like the Morishima stuff? And what would have been his best WWE year? 14?
Yeah, 14. Well, no. He got hurt 14. He got hurt pretty quickly after 14. So 13 would probably be. Well, no, I don't know. But see, this is the thing. They're really not that good all those years. 13 would be the year. 13 would be the year because he had the Cesaro match. He had the match with John Cena at SummerSlam that was really, really good. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess 14 by proxy of simply having the WrestleMania matches, but I didn't like the main event. We talked about that even at the time.
I'm just trying to listen.
No, you're not going to find one anywhere on the same fucking stratosphere. You can name every year he was there. None of them are anywhere close.
None of them stack up to these other years I'm talking about.
God, no.
I really think this is the best run of his life because of the variety of the work he's doing. Like, think about all these matches we talked about and how different they all are. Whether it's a strap match, or these grappling matches with Zack Sabre Jr. or Hechicero, or working with the guys from Japan like Yuji Nagata and Minoru Suzuki, or the dream matches with Okada, or the 60-minute draws with people like Hangman and Omega. There's such variety in the work he's doing. The television matches we talked about where he was just beating the shit out of people slotted below him with the goal of intimidating the world champion in front of their matches. There's just, the tag matches and the 6-man tags with the Blackpool Combat Club. We didn't even talk about anything other than singles matches.
Right. I talked about the Anarchy in the Arena and the Fight Without Honor or whatever. I tried to throw those in as much as I could, but yeah.
The strap match with Ricky Starks, which, by the way, they had a Texas Death Match a couple of weeks later that was really good. That gets forgotten.
It does. Yeah, that one does really get forgotten, which it shouldn't.
And with the the Continental Classic and all the stories that were told. To me, this is his best run. I'm ready to say it. And we could have been robbed of it. And I'm glad that we weren't. And I don't buy that he's ever going to retire. The way that he's working now, he could work that style like these luchadors do until he's 60. He didn't take any big bumps against Sabre. He didn't take any big bumps against Hechicero.
Nah, he's out there rolling right now, man. Yeah, he's out there rolling. He can slap and roll for look at Blue Panther. He could slap and roll for a long time.
So I hope he never goes back to that wretched place. Because this is incredible. I mean, that Sabre match, God, that was so fucking good.
Yeah.
And then he's had, like you said, probably 7 or 8 of those where you're like, I'll never forget this. Like that MJF match at Revolution. Come on.
It's an all-time great wrestling match.
I just wanted to have that conversation and make that point. I really think he's on the greatest run of one of the greatest in-ring careers that have ever been.
Yeah. Yeah, he's putting the cherry on top of an already insanely great pro wrestling career. And it's like, we didn't really realize how great, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think we realize how could he get greater? And oh, wait, he's getting greater. How is this fucking possible?
And this is like the end of the full-time run.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just like, this is him capping off an all-time great career with like an insanely all-time great run, which is absolutely wild. All right, let's get to the main event now, and then man, it's a lot of New Japan here this episode.
You know what? We haven't done big time New Japan talk in a long time.
It has been a while. It does feel like it has been a while. So there we go. We're back.
And this is a good way to do it because of this show and the Okada news. So fuck it, man. This used to be our calling card.
It did.
And we obviously still have the fastball. Okay? We still have the fastball.
Well, ready for a change up here, Joe? Steel Cage 10-man tag, Bullet Club War Dogs versus United Empire. 64 minutes and 5 seconds. This match is getting right now it's at a 9.04 on Cage Match, so it is charting pretty well. And here's where maybe I become the weird low man on this thing. I did not like this match at all. At all.
All the floor is yours, sir.
Did not like it. Too long. There was a good 20-minute match contained in this 64-minute match. It's possibly because of what I watch elsewhere and my inability to really get into guys hitting each other with shit and going through tables and bleeding. I see some form of this kind of match on every wrestling show I watch now, and every wrestling show I've watched for the last 5 years seemingly has a match that's like this. Now, this one obviously had bigger stakes and had more important things in it. And I'm not taking... I thought the beginning was really good. I thought Will Ospreay telling, David Finlay, you want to be a leader, you want to be a man. I'm not doing just a couple minutes with you. I want to do 10 minutes with you. That sort of thing. I thought I like that. I like the ending of the War Dogs all surrounding Ospreay. Ospreay knowing that he's dead and just accepting his fate, trying like hell. Maybe I'll do, I'll do a hidden blade and realizing I can't do shit. All right, fine. Just fucking put me out of my misery. Beat me. That's over. And there were individual spots in between the other 50 minutes of this match that were good. But I don't know, man. Too long. Too much guys just hitting each other with shit. I've seen so many of these matches lately. I'm desensitized to them. I've never been a War Games guy either. I think most War Games matches suck. There's like 2 good War Games ever. And there's a good Cage of Death. ROH CZW Cage of Death is good too. So it's not my style of match. I don't love it. And I just thought this one was way, way too long, and I didn't think it was that exciting. I thought I was going to get a match of hatred and like real, these teams want to rip each other apart. And instead I got a lot more of guys hitting each other with shit and going through tables and stuff like that. So I don't know. I am more than happy being the low man on this match. I guess I'll just take that and eat it, but I didn't like it at all. I just thought it was too long, too boring, not my cup of tea. So I don't know. What'd you think of it?
I mean, I don't know what I thought of it. It was way too long. Way too long. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I was enthralled for the entire 64 minutes. I was not. It should have been a lot shorter. There were moments, I think Akira really stood out. He showed a lot of fire. The crowd really loved him and his story of the guy who was skeptical about the match and not even wanting to be in the match. Then he gets in the match and he's just a house of fire.
He starts off by climbing the cage and jumping from it. Like, you know what? If I'm going to do this thing, fuck it, I'm going to do it. Jumps off the top. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. He's the smallest guy in there. He's the heart and soul of the United Empire. And he has really gotten over with the New Japan fans. He was a highlight. Hanare was a highlight. Once he got all bandaged up and was just a fucking madman in there, I thought he acquitted himself very well. Drilla Maloney looked like Rambo. He looked like Rambo.
He had a good look. He had a good look, yeah.
You know, I'm not a fan of the War Dogs. It's just got go away heat for me. So that
I thought in this match in particular, it was a way overdone. Just motherfucker, fuck this, fuck you, you motherfucker. It's, we get it. I got it. Like, you know, a lot of that in this match.
I just think it's a bad sign that in the first year of their push, they're already putting out feelers for the American companies. I would be very hesitant to get behind these guys in a big way. You know, the fact that they played the Sean Ross Sap feeler game less than a year into their pushes is a gigantic red flag to me, particularly with the American guys. Not so much with Kidd and Maloney. They didn't do that. But the American guys, plus a couple of them left already.
Right.
You know, Kevin Knight left and Carl Fredericks obviously had, you know, an ugly split with the company. So it just tells me that Coughlin and Connors, they are just WWE focused already. So I wouldn't really get behind them, honestly. But yeah, I don't know. It was way too long. And you know, to me, the big story is Ospreay. You know, look, they're pushing Finlay hard. They're getting behind him. I don't know if it's going to work.
It's not. Spoiler, it's not going to work.
It doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
We can't do it. We're doing the David Finlay thing again? I can't do the David Finlay thing again. Joe, I can't.
They really value loyalty. You know, whether it's Finlay or Tama Tonga, who was there forever. They've, you know, Chase Owens, they value loyalty. And there's something to be said for that. But you're either a star or you're not. You know, I don't mind giving a good full effort with Finlay, but they're going to have to know when to cut their losses if it's not working. And we'll see. Obviously, the Ospreay farewell was very emotional. I think he was speaking from the heart. Look, he makes no bones. He says he's confident in his decision. He knows it's the right move for him right now. He had his lady with him at ringside.
Mm-hmm. Alex Windsor.
She's not. Oh, she's in the business?
Oh, yeah, Alex Windsor. Yeah, Alex Windsor.
Oh, that's Alex Windsor.
Mm-hmm,
okay.
mm-hmm.
I didn't recognize her.
Yeah.
So, I don't recognize anybody outside of their gimmick. It's weird. Like, that happens a lot when I go to WrestleMania weekends. Like, I'll be walking around and somebody will be like, hey, so-and-so just passed us. I'm like, did they? I don't fucking know. If they're not,
Right.
like, if they're not in their wrestling tights, I have no clue who anybody is. I'm just completely lost. But, yeah, he just, you know, and it was a very emotional in-ring speech. And then on the ramp, we heard that whole fucking song for the first time, elevated. And the fans with the Ospreay.
Yeah,
Ospreay.
that was emotional even for me, man. It's just that entire him basking in that, and the entire Osaka crowd, and you know, they don't even speak the language. All just, you know, and it's not hard to, you know, say Ospreay or whatever, but like the idea that they were all just giving him that, and he turns around and all 5,000 people in that crowd, 5,000 plus, are you know, giving him back Ospreay. I mean, that's fucking great. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I thought his post-match comments in the back were really great. We talked about the Callum Newman stuff. He really cares about putting people over and taking care of you know, the next in line and all that. He always has. I mean, he's got a lot of Ric Flair in him in that way, where he will just lose every night. If you have to tell him, oh, listen, you have to win sometimes. Yeah, and look, the other interesting thing he said in the back, he said it in front of the crowd too, actually, was, look, I'm going to be back.
Right.
I have it in my contract that I can come back here because I want to come back here.
Right. I will
And
see
I
you all
am
again.
coming back.
I will see you all again. Yeah.
Like, I don't know when it will be, but I am coming back. I mean, he flat out said that. So, yeah, I mean, it was a hell of a run. He came in what was it, 2016, I guess? And it took a while to really get behind him. But by 2019, it really got rolling. And there was that 1 year, I think it was 2019, where I thought he was the best wrestler in 4 different tournaments: New Japan Cup, Best of the Super Juniors, G1, and the Super Junior Tag Tournament. He was the best wrestler in all 4 of those tournaments in 1 year. And I thought he was the best wrestler in the world that year. And I think he's been the best wrestler in the world every year since.
Yeah, every year since then he's been better. 2020, he was the MVP of 2020, wrestling those, in the fucking warehouses in Rev Pro and going out there balls to the wall in front of no crowds during, the G1 in 2020 or whatever. I mean, he to me was the MVP of 2020, and he just continued that throughout. I think every year since then.
I think he's been the best wrestler in the world every year since
2021. You got the matches against Shingo. You got the matches against Ibushi. You got the match against Okada. I think did he face Okada in 2021? I forget if he faced Okada in 2021, but yeah, he did that. And then in 2022, 2023, no doubt about it, he's been the best in the world. And I think easily I can make a case for 2021, and I can make a case for 2020. And you just made a case for 2019.
There's one of those pandemic years where people didn't really like his year that much, but so I could, see pushback on that one. I think 2020 maybe. But yeah, and predominantly that's been on the work he's done in New Japan with a sprinkle of Rev Pro, and then lately a little bit of AEW. And last year just working everywhere.
Yeah.
Last year he was just phenomenal. Everywhere he went against any opponent. So, yeah, it was this was his night to do his farewell, which might have been why they put some distance between the Okada match. That's possible, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so.
Because Okada got his moment in Korakuen already. And as far as Okada being booked in those tags in Sapporo, I know people want us to talk about it. I don't have an opinion. I don't find it insulting to him. And I just don't have a take. I don't know. He had his moments. He had his moment in Korakuen.
Yeah, I think Korakuen was the moment. That was the big one, and then the send-off with... Now, I would say why even bother with these, I guess would be the question is, like, why even bother? But I think maybe they're going to do, some chaos send-offs and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, like, I guess if you can get this guy and you're going to be in Sapporo, you may as well do it. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm not too hung up on him either. I don't have a hot take.
They're big shows. That's why you bother. I mean, he's not working the rank and file shit. He's working New Beginning in Osaka and New Beginning in Sapporo. And, they decided to put him on the big shows, and he agreed to do them. Out of contract. That's why, that's all. They're big shows, and they put him on them. I don't see it as like a fuck you, putting him in the tags. I don't see it as insulting. I don't see it as them sending a message. He got his send-offs. They let him vacate a title belt. And they let him have a moment in Korakuen. And they let him beat Tanahashi and have a moment in Osaka. What are we going to give him, a big giant moment in every fucking building? I mean, I don't know. I don't have a take on this. I don't think they're sending a message. I don't think it's anything like that. I think these are big shows in a big city. And we're going to give that Hokkaido up there north in the fucking mountains a chance to say goodbye to the guy. That's all. That's all I see it as. So, the one match is against United Empire, and the other match is, they both are.
Yeah, so the 23rd is Okada teaming with Ishii, Goto, Yoshihashi, and Yo versus United Empire, Jeff Cobb, Great Okan, Aaron Henare, Akira, and Callum Newman. So that's the 23rd. And the 24th is pretty much the same match, except for what you're going to do is you're going to swap in Hiroshi Tanahashi instead of Yo. So it's going to be Okada, Ishii, Goto, Yoshihashi, and Tanahashi. And on the other side, you're going to swap in Matt Riddle for Callum Newman. So you have Jeff Cobb, Great Okan, Aaron Henare, Francesco Akira, and Matt Riddle is on the 24th. So two very similar matches, but Tanahashi involved in one, Riddle involved in one, and another just straight chaos versus United Empire on the first night.
There's a lot of speculation that Riddle is going to be United Empire and take the Ospreay spot, and we'll see.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Kind of feels like that. But we'll see.
It's easy for New Japan to slip in those canceled guys, for lack of a better term, because the Japanese fans don't give a shit. It's not their country. They don't know. And, they just, I don't mean they don't give a shit in an uncaring way. It's just, I think they just view it as not their business. So you can slip them in. And there's no questioning Riddle's talent, if you just want to leave the conversation at that. But we'll see if he's full-time. We know Nemeth won't be, because Nemeth has signed with Impact. So you figure this is just a couple of shots for him, maybe the American shows, maybe he's someone who drifts in and out. But yeah, it looks like Riddle has a chance to be full-time. But we'll see what kind of angle they do. What was weird was Zack Sabre Jr. said, Okada, you're next, after the Danielson match. But he's not booked with him on either of these shows.
Yeah, so I don't know if he just worked himself. He kind of was trying to work himself there, or what was going on, or trying to say, hey, I should face this guy next. But yeah, he's not doing anything with that.
I don't think he would say that for no reason.
I agree.
So I thought maybe one of the Sapporo tags, because I hadn't looked at them yet.
No.
Were with TMDK, but they're not. So there's something cooking with Sabre and Okada. Are we missing something obvious? I don't think we are.
It's not obvious to me, I guess. I don't know.
Okada's not working. He's not working Windy City Riot. He's done with New Japan.
This is done. This is it.
So, I don't know. It's just interesting that Sabre said that. But, hey, got anything else on New Japan?
I don't.
Covered it all.
I don't, yeah. It's it for New Japan. I guess if you want to, real quick, the 23rd, we'll have time to cover this. When's it fall? We have time to cover it next week. So you know what? We'll cover it next week. But talk about the matches that are going to be booked for those nights. But we can do that next week.
The chat is saying that Charlton said he said Okada and misheard him. I thought I heard him say Okada. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that.
I thought he did too. But
I don't know if I'm Mandela affecting myself here, but he definitely said Naito, because people think he could win the title, which I don't think is impossible either.
No, I think that's kind of the bold move I would do. That's one of the ones that I would do right now. Is something like that, where I think you need to get a little bit bold, and you need to get a little crazy. You need to push.
Naito gives you stability. There's no doubt about it, but it is kind of boring.
Yeah,
with him as champion, it is kind of boring, but it's stable, and he's a big star, and it's safe. So, I don't know. I'm gonna pull it up real quick and see if I could hear him.
see if your mind is playing tricks on you. Well, if you want, do you want me to go over the cards while you figure that out?
Yeah. Do what you were going to do.
Let's do that. So, okay. February 23rd, business end of this card in Sapporo. Again, we can talk about this next week too, but business end is IWGP Global Heavyweight Title Match. David Finlay versus Nick Nemeth. David Finlay versus Nick Nemeth. You also have a New Japan World TV title match. Hiroshi Tanahashi defending against Matt Riddle. Never openweight title match. Evil versus Shota Umino. IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. You have El Desperado versus Sho. You also have an IWGP Women's title match in there. Mayu Iwatani versus Mina Shirakawa. And then a bunch of undercard tags. But one of the undercard singles matches that looks pretty cool. Yuji Nagata versus Zack Sabre Jr. I'm in for that one. That sounds pretty good to me. And then on the next night, the 24th, business end here is Naito versus Sonata. For the World Heavyweight title. Hair versus Hair, Yota Tsuji versus Yui Uemura. Taichi versus Shingo. Hiromu Takahashi versus Dookie. Taka Michinoku versus Bushi are your quote-unquote business end of that card as well. Joe, you need more time, don't you? That wasn't enough.
Okay.
What do you got?
He says, Naito, Sonata, you're next. And then Charlton says, you hear what he said? Kazuchika Okada, I'm coming for you. So, yeah, he didn't say Okada.
Well, there you go. All right.
I just went and listened to it. So, I Mandela affected myself because of Charlton. It's all Charlton's fault.
It almost always is. Yeah.
It always is. That guy,
on, man.
It's just, it's always, I'm going to send him.
I'm blaming him actually for the Okada thing. You know what I mean? It's Charlton's fault that Okada didn't put over all the young guys.
Listen, Charlton, you're getting a sternly worded DM as soon as this show is over.
Right.
Because I've had enough of your shit. Listen, that guy is so good now that we brought him up.
Oh, he's great.
I mean, because the kid he's working with obviously has potential. But I think Chris knows he kind of has to carry it right now in a lot of ways. And he really came into his own working with Kevin Kelly all those years where he was like very solidly a third chair, an information guy. We've seen him grow. And when it comes to getting stories over, he is top tier. I don't know if there's anyone better because he knows the promotion inside and out. He knows what the promotion's trying to do. He understands what he's watching.
He knows how to weave these big stories too, and say them in a way that makes them feel like they have some huge gravitas and there's some big story. You know what I mean? He does a really good job of some people don't like those monologues. I love them. I love them.
No, he knows his history. He clearly does his homework before the shows. He's a top tier pro, and he deserves credit for really improving and evolving in his role over the years. And that's important because he's working with a kid who was like fucking 8 years old when Okada beat Tanahashi.
Yeah, he's still stupid young. Don't look at it.
I'm not disrespecting him. He's doing a good job.
He is. But yeah, like you said, there's a sense of history and knowing, and Charlton has that, and Walker, for all that he does well, which I think he's getting there, and he's got a good voice, and he does all the professional announcer things that you want, but he just doesn't have that sort of sense of history because he's fucking 21 years old. So it's like,
and he knows, listen, and he has a future if he sticks with this. There's no doubt about it. He's a good professional play-by-play man. Danielson did the I have till 5 routine. And again, he's a young guy. He didn't recognize it. He goes, well, Danielson sure knows the rules. He didn't know that that's like Danielson's shtick.
Because he was 2 in 2006 or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. When I was at Ring of Honor shows slapping barricades, screaming I have till 5 with all my other fucking barricades slapping dorks, he was in diapers. So it's like, yeah, I get it. Right.
Yeah. So Charlton, I think, has a good feel for that, and he's going to guide him along the way Kevin Kelly guided him along.
But there you go. That is New Japan Pro Wrestling, man. How about that? 2+ hours on New Japan Pro Wrestling to get you started here on the flagship this week. Let's get to some other things going on in the world of wrestling real quickly. AEW Revolution coming up in a couple of weekends. We'll obviously have an instant reaction over at flagshippatreon.com. We always do instant reactions for big AEW and WWE shows. AEW Revolution, of course, being a gigantic one. So make sure you are subscribed and ready for that coming up in just a couple of weeks now. That'll be on our $10 tier over at flagshippatreon.com. One of our the shows that are always like completely, I mean, the chat room is just filled with people. Everyone's talking about the pay-per-views. It's a lot of fun to be on there and react to those shows live immediately after they happen. But we're going to do that, of course, for AEW Revolution coming up in a couple of weeks. But the card is looking really good right now. We're starting to flesh it out a little bit. Obviously, we know about the world title 3-way, Samoa Joe, Hangman Adam Page, and Swerve Strickland. Also added official Darby Allin and Sting versus the Young Bucks. We kind of figured that was going to happen, but I think they made it very, very official here this week. Orange Cassidy versus Roderick Strong for the international title. Women's title, Toni Storm versus Deonna Purrazzo. Eddie Kingston versus Bryan Danielson for the Continental New Japan Strong ROH World title, the crown. And then booked on this last week's Dynamite as well, Konosuke Takeshita versus Will Ospreay. So, that looks like a hell of a card on paper so far. What do you make of Revolution from what we know right now, which looks like we're not going to add that many more matches? I feel like we're pretty well there, maybe a couple here and there, but we're pretty well there.
4 to 6 matches because they only have 6 matches right now. They usually do about 10 to 12, right? So you're going to add something with Copeland and Christian, whether it's another singles match or some kind of tag involving Daniel Garcia. They're going to add something with Moxley and Claudio with NFTR for sure. And they'll probably add something with another women's match with Willow and Stat and Sky Blue and Julia Hart. Now, whether that will be pre-show or pay-per-view, they've been doing that story for months. So something is there's going to be either a tag or a Julia Hart.
I forgot who reported, but I think she's been dealing with some sort of injury. So maybe she might not be on Revolution this time.
Right. But I think that group of people, there's going to be something.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to be, but so there's some stuff that they can add for sure. I'm dying, man.
You are not doing well. I'll carry I'll carry hour 3. I got you.
The card so far looks great. I did say on the Dynamite review behind the paywall that we talk about the rating briefly because I did it before the rating. Very surprising. They did a 0.3 on Valentine's Day, which, the total viewership was up a tad against last week, but doing a 0.3 to me was pretty surprising. I last week was a 0.28 and I thought it was a little disappointing, but that was deceptive because they didn't get the same lead in that they normally get from Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory did somewhere like 858,000, somewhere in the 800s.
Yeah, it was like a weirdly low Big Bang Theory number for some strange.
Yeah, because they normally do well over 1 million. And so the first quarter hour last week was in the 800s as opposed to over 1 million. The show followed its usual ratings pattern throughout the night, but it started off lower than usual. And when you look at where they lost a lot of viewers last week, I'm talking, it was in the older half of the female 18 to 49, the 35 to 49. Well, that's who watches Big Bang Theory. So it correlates. And then, as it turns out, the Big Bang Theory did do a much lower number. So, that would have helped both the total viewership and the demo number last week if they would have started at their usual level. So, now it was a big premiere week on some of the networks for some stuff. So that could have affected, people watching other things as opposed to Big Bang Theory or whatever. But, I thought that explained last week with the slightly disappointing number that they did. This week, I wasn't expecting them to be up versus last week with the lineup that they had. But this could be one of those situations where the show was so good last week that people wanted to watch this week. And that happens sometimes where the week before affects the next week.
Of course. I would think it happens more times than people probably would like to think. I think it makes a lot of sense that would happen. And I think that people get hung up on 1 week ratings. And I think you need to, this show did bad because they booked this match. And that's why it's like, sometimes it's like what happens the week prior plays into what happens the week next. Like, I think people get so hung up on who's booked on one show and then kind of determine ratings by, Orange Cassidy was in this match and it didn't do well. And it's like, well, I think we need to look at this thing in a little bit more of a bigger picture as opposed to going week by week, frame by frame, segment by segment, and deciding, but it's all about fitting narratives and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah. So this week, quarter hour 1 was 944,000, which is a lot closer to the 1 million plus that they usually start off with. So for whatever reason, just the week prior, Big Bang Theory did, 150,000 less viewers or whatever it was, which is just not even 150,000, like closer to 200,000 less total viewers than they usually. No, because they're usually well over 1 million, like 1.2 million. So, 300,000 to 400,000 less people watched Big Bang Theory last week, which, is going to affect your lead in. And, a lot of people will say, oh, well, those people shouldn't count. Well, lead-ins, that's been a television strategy for decades.
Right.
You want to stack shows, and that's just how it works. If those people leave the next show on for 15 minutes, well, they're fucking watching. They count. They're watching, and they see the ads. That's all that matters.
Right. Then maybe they're not engaged future pay-per-view buyers or whatever, but they're watching ads, and they count.
Right. So they might watch for 3 minutes. They might watch for 7 minutes. They might watch for the full 15 minutes. They might stay for an hour, but those viewers count. And I'm sure that they've converted. Maybe it's not a statistically significant number, but they've undoubtedly converted some of those people into semi regular viewers. It's impossible that they haven't.
I mean, we all, I mean, I don't know about you, but I always, talk about when I started watching wrestling was like, for some reason, I really wanted to watch Pacific Blue back in the day. Remember Pacific Blue, the bike cop show with Mario Lopez or whatever? But they used to be on like Saturday mornings, and then like right after that was WWF Superstars or Livewire or whatever the fuck. And I just started watching that. One time I kept it on, and I went, it's kind of fun. And then here I am, still all these fucking many years later. I watched some Doink the Clown match and was like, all right. And then decided I'm going to watch this thing for the rest of my life. And here we are. So it was my love of Mario Lopez's bike cop show that got me in. But yeah, there's a lot of people have examples of that. It's not, you don't chase that audience all that much, but if you get them, I mean, you want that lead in no matter what. You want that because it's valuable for a TV property and for TV ratings and for ad buys or whatever. But yeah, if you move some of those people into converting them into actual fans, then that's even better. You'll take that for sure.
Yeah, having a strong lead-in is incredibly valuable, and it's something you want to have, and you don't want to have a weak lead-in.
No, either. That's TV 101. Every TV network and every TV executive ever thinks about what comes in and what comes out of every single show that they have, because that's what the game is. You got to know, you got to be good at it to get where you are. But also in the front, in on the AEW front here, March 29th, they're going to be going to CMLL, the Blackpool Combat Club. It is going to be best 2 out of 3 falls, 8-man tag. Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, Jon Moxley, and Wheeler Yuta versus Blue Panther, Mystico, Ultimo Guerrero, and Volador Jr. That is going to fucking rock. And by the way, they are selling tickets like crazy to that show right now, too. So I don't know if it's because of that match in particular, but it is selling very, very well. That is not until March 29th, so we'll have time to obviously lead up to that and talk about it or whatever. But that looks like a hell of a card, and that is a hell of a match right there.
Yeah. I mean, Arena Mexico's still on fire, so I'm sure it doesn't hurt to have that match. But, yeah, and I'm sure that's going to set up Danielson versus Blue Panther. Rampage and Collision did really great numbers last week, too. Some of their best numbers in months. The Collision show has been great every week, and it's starting to pay off. It's really a shame that there's no Collision this week because it's going to derail their momentum a little bit.
Yeah, for people that do not know, no Collision this week. NBA All-Star Saturday dunk contest, 3-point contest, or whatever's going on. So instead of trying to say, we're going to come on the air at 11 p.m., or actually we're going to be at 4 p.m., they just decided, you know what, fuck it. Or they did the weird thing with the Fridays or whatever. They just decided, fuck it, we're taking this week off. So, yeah, they're not, no Collision this week. And you're right. It probably is going to hurt the momentum a little bit because you get off of a routine even for 1 week. It's hard to get back on that routine, and that is again TV 101. Like we're saying, you don't want people to stop watching for even 1 week because it tends to snowball into a couple weeks. So yeah, you want to avoid that at all costs if you can. But this case, they were kind of damned if they do with the scheduling. So
it just seems like getting back to basics and being a wrestling show for wrestling fans is starting to pay off slowly but surely. And being reflected in the ratings.
Yeah.
Next up is ticket sales. They've got to do something because, again, last night they only had 3,500, I think.
Yeah. The tickets are moving very
terrible.
slow.
It's terrible. Maybe Greensboro, because they keep adding seats. They could sell as many as they could fit for Revolution, and maybe that'll kickstart things if the show is really good and get ticket sales moving again because ratings, at least here in this short micro view, are heading back in a positive direction the last few weeks across all of their shows. And, Mystico was on Rampage. Is that a coincidence or not? I don't know, because remember they added him to that show last year and he helped sell all those late tickets.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, it's stars are stars. And I'm not saying he's making a Cody-like difference or a Rock-like difference, but when
you're only selling 3,000 tickets, I mean, moving 500 to 1,000 is a big deal.
Correct.
Moving 200 is a big deal.
When you work Rampage in the opening match, which is reality, the main event for that show, and they do their best numbers in months, I mean, come on. I mean, there's probably something there when the guy already has a track record of parachuting in and making a difference. So, man, my voice is really cracking like a teenager.
Yeah. It's puberty lands over here. But yeah, so that's a quick look at AEW here. Trying to move this show along quickly so we can get Joe out of here and in bed or with more lozenges. Billy Jack Haynes, not good story here. Former wrestler Billy Jack Haynes named a suspect following the death of his wife. Reportedly, police responded to his house after they were alerted to gunfire inside the house. Then there was a 2-hour standoff to get him out of the house. And then when they got in the house, they discovered that his wife had died of a gunshot wound. So probably doesn't take a whole lot to figure out what is going on here. He is currently in the hospital due to an unrelated condition to the standoff. But once he is discharged, he will be booked. And Portland police had this quote to say, quote, he is in police custody at a local hospital. Sorry, a local medical facility. They didn't say local medical facility. This is a local hospital. While he's being treated for a medical condition unrelated to the homicide or his contact with law enforcement. Once he is released from the hospital, which may be days from now, he is expected to be booked into jail. Haynes' charges will be released once he is booked. But yeah, he, doesn't take David Caruso to figure out what happened here. But yeah, that's not a good story there for Billy Jack Haynes. And yeah, kind of a rough story there. But he's had a lot of issues.
He's had a lot of mental issues, and he's kind of gone off the deep end in a lot of ways. And it's obviously sad that he murdered this woman. I suspect there's some mental health issues at play. He had a real weird career. You know, he was a big star in Portland, almost right from the start. I mean, just look at him in those days. He arguably had the best physique, the best body in wrestling when that was really starting to matter in pro wrestling. He had a superstar $1 million look.
Oh, I mean, even at WrestleMania, you know, what was WrestleMania 3? He's got like one of the best bodies on the entire show, and that's in that company at that time when everybody had. He's in the ring with fucking Hercules, who had an incredible body as well. And even with that, Billy Jack Haynes, you're like, holy crap, that guy is just like, he looks like the star. He looks like the biggest fucking star in the world, given the physique. How important that was, like you said.
Vince McMahon's wet dream, and it's funny, that's probably his most famous match because of where it took place.
Right.
WrestleMania 3. But what a lot of people don't know and might not remember is Vince tried to hire him in 1984. And, you know, they did vignettes on TV. They put him in the magazines, but he never showed up. He would have been there in 84, you know, because he didn't come for the run that you're talking about until 86. But he was a very flaky guy. Like, he was a big star in Portland always, but he had his run-ins with Don Owen. Plenty of run-ins and disputes with him. He ran opposition against Don Owens a number of times later on, like in the late 80s and early 90s. He tried to run opposition on Owen whenever he would have a dispute. He was popular enough where he could go start his own promotion, and they would never work out. But he worked basically every territory because everyone took one look at him and were like, we got to bring this guy in.
Right. Florida. I know he worked Florida a lot. World Class, he was in.
You know, World Class is funny because for one of those runs, they brought him in, and Chris Adams quit immediately because Chris Adams was afraid for his life because he thought Billy Jack Haynes was going to, like, kill him which is ironic with what's happened.
Yeah.
Billy Jack was always a crazy guy. And, like, when Chris Adams was with Jeannie Clark, who went on to become, what the hell was her gimmick name later on?
Lady Blossom, right?
She was, Lady Blossom. And she left Chris Adams for Billy Jack Haynes. And there was a lot of heat between Adams and Haynes. So Adams got the hell out of town. But then Billy Jack's run didn't work out. And then Adams came back after Billy Jack left. Because he would always come to these territories and flame out very quickly. They tried him in Mid-Atlantic, but he didn't get over. They tried him in Florida, and he didn't really get over. Georgia, everywhere. I mean, name a territory. and he could never get over the way he did in Portland. And as soon as he got the sense that he wasn't getting over, he would just go back to Portland, where he knew he'd be a main eventer. And again, he could have been with WWF from the start of the national run, but he never showed up. I mean, they were pushing him on TV, and he just didn't come to work. But Vince eventually did bring him in '86. He finally did get him. And again, he looked the part. He looked the part of every 80s, like, male stud.
Yeah.
With the facial hair and the great body.
A little bit of chest hair, too. A little bit of chest hair, yeah.
And the big head of hair. You know, he was like the ideal 80s man. You know, and he just wasn't a great worker. And he just couldn't really get over anywhere outside of Portland. And, you know, he stuck around WWF for a while. You know, he had the Hercules feud. You know, then he had the tag team with Ken Patera, and they feuded with Demolition, and that went nowhere. They did the deal where Brady Boone was allegedly his cousin or nephew, one or the other, and patterned his look after Billy Jack, but that went nowhere. And then it was just back to Portland in the dying days. And he did end up in WCW in the early 90s as Black Blood.
Right. The often forgotten Black Blood. Not around these parts, unfortunately. We're well aware, but many other places forgotten.
No, I wrote about that a few weeks ago in Match of the Week. And that was another short run because, again, eventually he had a dispute with the promoter. You know, he had some money dispute, and he injured his knee, and they wouldn't pay for his surgery. It was a whole thing. And he walked out. And he never got the surgery, and he went back to Portland, and he fucked up his knee even worse, and that was the end of his career. That was it. He may have tried to come back years later, but that was effectively the end of his career. He had gained weight. He was a big, thick guy. He wasn't like, didn't have the lean muscle anymore. He gained weight. He was like 280 pounds, and his knees couldn't handle it, and that was really it for him. And then post-career, he would do a lot of shoot interviews and things like that. And it was very clear he wasn't all there. He had a lot of wild stories. He has claimed that he has murdered people before.
Yeah, I think even before he wrestled, he said that he caught a manslaughter charge or something like that. Or you know.
He one of the stories he used to tell on the shoot interviews is that he murdered somebody while he was working for WWE. I mean, and no one took him seriously. He was just like a guy who everyone knew was crazy, and they would just, I don't know, is taking advantage the right word? They would put him on these shoot interviews because they knew he would say wild things.
Right. Not taking advantage. So yeah. I mean, yeah, that's what they're doing.
So nobody took it seriously, but he would have all these wild stories, and it's just a little ominous now that the Chris Adams story, and then the fact that he would frequently talk about how he had killed people before, but no one took him seriously. And now this horrible story where, I guess, how old is he now? He's got to be in his late 60s, early 70s.
No, he's 70. He's 70.
And he killed his wife. I mean,
his wife is 85 too, which I mean, think,
my God.
And she was related to somebody in the business. Let me see if I can figure out. She has some wrestling connection, but I don't remember how. Give me 1 second. I read it somewhere. I just got to remember where I read it. Man, I forget. She's got some connection to wrestling, and I don't remember who it is. It's either her brother was in wrestling or something like that. It's not a name. It's not like an obvious name, though. I don't know if
right. Not someone people would know.
No, yeah, I don't think so.
But
Todd Rule. Yeah, Todd Rule. Do you remember that? Haynes was close friends with Jeanette's son, Todd B. Kraft, and that he wrestled in Oregon as Todd Rule. So I don't know if you remember that name, but
it's not ringing a bell.
Yeah,
it's not ringing a bell. But yeah, just a guy who, if things would have happened differently, he could have been one of the biggest stars in the world with his look. Just didn't have he couldn't work, and he didn't really have the necessary charisma, but he certainly had the look. And he just said was short-tempered and never really lasted anywhere aside from Portland, where he also had a lot of problems. But yeah, just a terrible, terrible story. And you know, you feel horrible for the woman. And, you know, it's obvious. I mean, they weren't naming the victim or the alleged person, but he has been named at this point, right? Like it's official.
Yeah, they're in no uncertain terms. They're saying
he's the prime. He's the suspect.
He's the suspect. Yeah, there was a gunshot. He wouldn't come out after 2 hours. They finally got him out, and she died of a gunshot wound. It's like you know what I mean. It's not hard to figure out what's probably going on here.
Yeah.
So yeah, awful story. So let's go. We'll go back to back with the awful stories here. So not a whole lot new in the Vince McMahon WWE lawsuit. It does look like though Friday. We're recording this on the 15th. This is going live on the 15th. Friday, which will be the 16th, could be a big day in this case, as Brandon Thurston writes. Quote: expect an answer or extension to answer by this coming Friday from the defendants in the Grant versus WWE McMahon Laurinaitis lawsuit, which is the 21-day deadline since their summons were issued. So essentially, we're going to have to know where all these people stand, or they're all going to have to get an extension or whatever after. So this doesn't mean this case is going to be done by then, but WWE and McMahon have to say something. Now, Laurinaitis has said his piece, how he's going to attack it, how his lawyers are going to attack it, is that I was also a victim of McMahon's manipulation. So Laurinaitis is ready to kind of throw McMahon and WWE under the bus. What is WWE going to say about this? What is McMahon going to say about it? That's kind of what we're still waiting to see here, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more clarity on Friday, or we're going to get an extension, and they'll have a little bit more time to get their cases together or figure out what they're going to say in regards to this, because both those sides have been completely silent about the entire thing thus far. Well, I guess McMahon had the original statement that said that these, you know, were blasphemous or whatever and lies, and, you know, we'll defend it or whatever. But that's all he said. WWE, they haven't officially said anything, right? The company, I don't think they have.
No,
I don't think they've put anything out there. So yeah, I guess it would be the first time we're hearing from them potentially on Friday. As far as new information about the lawsuit, not a whole lot coming up right now. Tim Archman continues to do pretty good work on Vice, digging through the Ashley Massaro lawsuit and all the details of that, about essentially that, you know, she had told people in WWE that, you know, she was raped on the Tribute to the Troops tour that they did in Kuwait, and her essentially saying that everybody knew about it and nobody did anything about it. Laurinaitis following that up and saying, yeah, we all knew about it, nobody did anything about it. So that was kind of you know, helping her story there a little bit. Obviously, Ashley Massaro has since passed, so it's not her. It's kind of, you know, people digging through her lawsuit, her former lawyer, her friends that have been out there saying stuff. So there was that. Massaro also did say that, you know, Vince McMahon pried on the divas at the time and essentially, you know, treated his office like a casting couch type of thing, and that was another thing that she said. And there was also, just before we got on the air here today, one of her friends was on News Nation. I don't know the friend's name. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me. I don't want to do a ton of clicking around, but she came on and said that Stephanie McMahon was aware of what had happened to Ashley Massaro and showed almost no sympathy and didn't really care, and essentially was one of many people that told Ashley to just kind of keep this on the down low because this will affect, you know, our relationship with the troops and with the U.S. military or whatever. So, yeah, that's what we have so far. So not a whole lot of other bombshells coming out outside of the Ashley Massaro thing, but you know, tomorrow will be a pretty big day in this case. Hopefully, one way or another, we'll know what people are saying and how they're going to attack this defense here. So that's that. Anything else for you to add to the Vince McMahon WWE lawsuit?
No. Yeah, I think you covered. I mean, we're going to know a lot more after tomorrow when some of these defendants have to respond. So,
Cara Papia, I believe is her name. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the last name right. That is her name. Thanks, chat room, for letting me know what the name was. But yeah, she was on News Nation talking a little bit about that. So if you want to read about that, I'm sure you can find that. All right, one more topic, and then we're going to get Joe out of here so we can rest that voice. TNA wrestlers sent a letter to Anthem about Scott D'Amore's removal. It's a pretty long letter, so I will read it. So, Joe, you can rest up for here in a minute. So it says, quote here, anyway, this is TNA wrestlers coming together to write to Anthem to talk about their displeasure regarding Scott D'Amore's removal as president. Quote, Len and Scott, TNA/Impact is not just our employer and the company for which we work. It is a family that each of us has grown to love and cherish and trust with our bodies and our careers, a family for which we feel deeply and that desire above all else to protect. We are deeply saddened by the decision to remove Scott D'Amore from the TNA Impact family. Scott is a brilliant wrestling mind that has guided this company and has positioned it to take the next step upward in our industry. Scott is also much more in this. He is a trusted friend, confidant, teacher, advisor, brother, and mentor to so many within the TNA Impact family. Scott has been the heart of the TNA Impact family for over 2 decades. Len and Anthem have been instrumental in supporting and building this company back from the ground up. The contributions of Len and Anthem have never gone unnoticed by anybody in the company, and we want to make sure that Len knows this. TNA, simply put, would not have survived without Len and Anthem. Not just financially, but with the undying faith in Scott and us to revive the company that was on the brink of death. Len and Anthem have been the foundation that TNA has been built upon. We would not have made it back to this point without both of you. The fans know this, and the TNA family knows this. We come to you to voice our concern that TNA impact our family and its future and direction. We, like you, wish to safeguard what we have all worked and sweat and bled to build. We want TNA Impact to continue to grow and to continue to be an enviable place for all professional wrestlers to work. We understand and appreciate that professional wrestling at its core is a business and that the company must provide a fiscally responsible, financially viable product. At the same time, professional wrestling is uniquely situated. The business of professional wrestling is so much more than balance sheets, downloads, and ratings. The wrestling business is and must be its people, its characters, and its storylines. That is to say, there is no wrestling business without the wrestling creative vision and the right people bringing this creative vision to life. So now there's 3 more paragraphs that I'm not really going to read here, but essentially, I'll read the last paragraph. We remain steadfast and hopeful that this letter can be the first step to opening and keeping open productive lines of communication to ensure that TNA Impact family continues to be a wonderful, unique place to work for years to come. We ask and implore you both to come together and create a resolution that will reunite this family once again. We look forward to hearing from you and continuing this dialogue. Signed, your TNA family. So there you go. TNA roster obviously not happy with Scott D'Amore's removal from the company and penning that letter to their bosses at Anthem. What did you make of that when you read it?
Yeah, we kind of talked about that last week, that he's very, very popular with the roster. You know, it's a nice letter, and it's very heartfelt, and it's nice that they're doing that for him. But the one line that bugs me is the business of professional wrestling is so much more.
Do you want me to read it for you?
Yeah. Read that line.
I'll read that line for you. Let me make sure I get the exact one here. All right, sorry. Professional wrestling is uniquely situated. The business of professional wrestling is so much more than balance sheets, downloads, and ratings. The business is and must be its people, its characters, and its storylines.
Yeah. Listen. It's not. It's really not. It is about balance sheets, downloads, and ratings. You know, that might sound cold, but
it's business.
You know, TNA is not a soup kitchen. This is not a charity. And they're not making money. And if they feel like Scott D'Amore is not the right person to help them make money, that's why the move is made. And they're not making money. They can't get a TV deal. So that line is preposterous. That's exactly what the wrestling business
right.
is.
It sounds good, and it sounds nice and rosy, and it's like, yeah, it'd be great if that was the case. It's clearly not the case. You know what I mean? It's like, no, that at the end of the day, Anthem is running a business here, and this is what this whole departure is about, and what's going to happen. This is only the beginning of what's going to happen with this company. I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week. You know, we're still kind of reacting to the news because it was still kind of new at that time, but that's what this is. I mean, you look at the guy that they put in this post. This is the guy that's the head of Access or whatever. He's just a dude. He's just a guy that's going to look at a spreadsheet. This guy doesn't care about wrestling. You know what I mean? This guy doesn't really care about, it's people. It's what was it? It's people, it's characters, it's storylines. I'm sorry. He cares about the balance sheet, downloads, and ratings. And
Anthem has to care about that stuff. And they're probably tired of looking at this line item and wondering why it's losing all of this money every year. Mm-hmm. So they may have determined that Scott D'Amore is not the guy to make them money. My feeling is, at the end of the day, like has happened many other times before in the history of this company, it's going to get stripped down to the bones. and D'Amore is just the start. It's gonna cycle down to talent and everything else, because they can't keep spending money without bringing money in. It's a business. It's not a fucking soup kitchen. It is about balance sheets, downloads, and ratings. That's all it's about. That's, it sounds cold, but that's just the reality of it. So that line is just preposterous. I know they mean well. I get it. But unfortunately, I think some of the talent is probably going to be next.
Yeah.
If they can't get a TV deal, then where are they making their money?
Yeah,
They don't
they're
do
not.
hardly any pay-per-view buys. They don't they don't sell any tickets. They're going to have to strip the roster down to bare bones, and they're bringing this guy in. He's a bean counter. He's there to cut losses. They gave the wrestling guy a chance, and they're still losing money. In come the suits.
Right.
And what are the suits going to do? Minimize losses the best they can.
Or just do away with the whole thing too, which is just as easy to do if you're Anthony, whatever the heck his name is, from the head of Access, that he can just easily. Yeah. He could just throw fucking Sammy Hagar's Rock and Roll Road Trip in the spot of the time slot and not spend any money. He could, tomorrow, if he wanted to go to his bosses and say, I just saved us X million dollars, he could. You know what I mean? Like that, and that's as cold as that is, and how shitty that is for everybody that's involved in TNA. I mean, that's the reality that they all need to wake up for anymore. The guy that was going to fight for them is gone. The guy that was going to fight for TNA, the guy that supposedly so badly didn't want to let this company go the way it's maybe going to go, that he tried to buy it, that guy's gone. And I think and that's why this letter came out, because they know that this can't be good. There's no situation where this guy comes in and he's like, all right, guys, all hands in, let's do this thing. And that, I mean, this guy is here to, like you said, strip this thing down to the bones, or just straight up get rid of it too.
That's the end result. I think that's the end result. Lean it out and lose as little money as possible. Because anyone could see it's not making any money. On what? Their meager pay-per-view buys, or they don't even do 10,000 buys?
No, it's not that.
Most
of which are done on Fight, and all of them are done on Fight or whatever. You know what I mean? The Impact Plus, very few people are on, so most of them are done on Fight, which they eat half that. I don't know if it's half. I don't know. I don't know if every individual company can kind of agree to their own thing or whatever. But even on all the quote unquote pay-per-view buys that you're making or whatever, a chunk of that is getting taken away immediately to go back to the service that is airing the pay-per-views, which in this case is Fight or Triller or whatever. So whatever amount that is, cut that in half. Or slightly less, or whatever the deal might be. It's nothing, and it makes good programming for their network. It does well, it draws ratings or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you're a television network, especially in 2024, we'll just air a rerun of whatever the fuck. We have all these dumb properties. We'll just air a rerun. Who cares? First run content. I mean, on cable TV now, the amount of first run content that a lot of these channels have is so fucking small at this point. It's wild to think about where cable was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and where it is now. I mean, Comedy Central, what does Comedy Central do that's original now? I think it's got South Park and Daily Show, I think is it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something else I'm missing. But the idea that, I understand the idea a couple years ago, and even was, hey, well, we're getting this property that's drawing the best ratings that we have on for X. But if the money isn't there, and you're looking at it and going, well, shit, we could save this amount of money by just playing a replay of some fucking concert, some bullshit concert that we have the rights to. Why not just do that and save the money? And that does feel. I mean, Access doesn't.
Look, it doesn't matter who's in charge. The bottom line is if they can't get a TV deal, they're dead.
Right.
That's it. That's all there is to it. Bottom line.
And you wonder how much they're even trying to get a TV deal for this company. I know they want it, but how badly are they even?
No one's, I mean, Tony Khan can't get a TV deal for ROH, and
Right.
he's a proven winner.
Right. NWA
He is a proven.
yeah.
He has proved he could get ratings, and he can't get a deal. I can't do this.
You're
We gotta
done.
end this.
Yeah, we're done. You're done. We got to go here. But that one thing I will say about this is that if Scott D'Amore truly did want to buy this company, if that was a real thing, if I'm Access, I might call him back and say, actually, hold on a minute. How much were you going to spend? How much are you going to give it? I would immediately sell it to Scott D'Amore and say, all right, it's your problem now, pal. Fine. We'll take our X $million and play Sammy Hagar's Rock and Roll or our 30-minute blocks of old movie trailers instead. But not, I don't know. Not good for TNA. So I would keep an eye on that story for the next couple of weeks and months. I do not think that's going what direction it's going to go. All right, we are getting out of here. Joe, you have no voice anymore. You stuck around for 2 hours and 48 minutes, an admirable effort, but we're tapping out. We got to go. So anyway, that is Joe. I am Rich. We will talk to you next time on the Flagship Podcast, voicesofwrestling.com, Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network, flagshippatreon.com. Make sure you subscribe to that. Also, voicesofwrestling.com/Discord. Make sure you join that to join the conversation as well. All right. Anyway, that's Joe. I'm Rich. Talk to you guys next time. Take care. Bye.
Music. It's not just part of our daily lives, it's part of our wrestling fandom as well, and it has been for decades. That's where this show comes in. Music of the Mat, the podcast devoted exclusively to the music of pro wrestling, hosted by Andrew Rich. Hey, that's me. Each episode delivers a different topic with a variety of great guests, fun conversations, musical analysis, and of course, a heartfelt pun or two. New episodes drop every other Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice. Check out Music of the Mat only on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.